Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Monday, the 7th of April, 2025 has dawned. Good morning and welcome to it, the Monday edition of the Morning Brief here on SAFM. Over the next 3 hours, let us arm you with all the news, information, analysis, and perspectives you need to start your day and to navigate your place in the world. Good morning, I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. It's good to be in your company. Here's what's coming up on the Morning Brief this morning. In a bid to prevent political and economic instability, some of the country's business leaders have written to both President Cyril Ramaphosa and the DA leader John Steenhuisen, urging them to resolve their differences and maintain the current configuration of the government of national unity, the governing coalition at national level. So you'll know that this comes as the DA's federal executive is going to be mulling over the party's next steps following the passage of the budget in Parliament last week. And you'll remember that the DA vociferously rejected, let me be technically correct, the passing of the fiscal framework and revenue proposals, because, you know, that's part of the many instruments that make up the budget. So the DA vociferously opposed the passing of that fiscal framework and revenue proposals in Parliament, and they had pegged it and framed it as an issue that would become a red line and would render it untenable for them to continue functioning within the government of national unity. So amid all of that concern, and the ANC talking about also assessing and reassessing the relationships among the 10 parties in the government of national unity, a great deal of concern among some sectors in business, and therefore they've written to both President Ramaphosa and DA leader John Steenhuisen to say, try as much as you can to maintain the current configuration. So at the top of 7 a.m., I'll be in conversation with Thulasizwe Mate, who is the Business Unity South Africa CEO. We'll just be unpacking what some of those concerns are from business. You will have heard President Ramaphosa yesterday emphasizing that business has a right to be heard and to speak out about their concerns, but saying that at least the ANC and President Ramaphosa will absolutely not be dictated to by business as to what next steps to take in relation to this matter. So my conversation with the Thulasizwe Mate at the top of 7 a.m. Speaking of President Ramaphosa, he was 3 for 3 in being cleared by the public protector, Koleka Gcaleka, of allegations that had been leveled against him that all related to his activities as the ANC president. So there were 2 complaints relating to President Ramaphosa participating in one way or another in interacting with beneficiaries of RDP housing. One was in the Free State and another was in the Northern Cape. Both of these incidents happened in 2022. And then there was a third incident that related to a complaint that had been lodged by the DA leader John Steenhuisen in the build-up to last year's elections about an employment program that President Ramaphosa announced while campaigning for the ANC in Zandspruit in Johannesburg. In all of those 3, Koleka Gcaleka, the public protector, finding that there had been no wrongdoing on the part of President Cyril Ramaphosa. So we'll be reflecting on those reports with the public protector, Advocate Koleka Gcaleka. She will be my guest at around 7:20, so in the second hour of the show. And then the third story I want to flag for you is around the working conditions at a number of government buildings. So we are told that several national government departments and entities face criticism for violating the occupational health and safety laws by, making conditions such that their workers are forced to really work in hazardous conditions. The issues include water leaks, electrical hazards, and inadequate ventilation. And so the public sector unions are quite concerned about the situation. And I think among the departments being mentioned, particularly in Pretoria, you'll count the Department of Home Affairs, Government Printing Works, and the Department of Defense and Military Veterans are flagged as being among the really problematic departments. So Zamani Dladla, the Public Servants Association Chief Negotiator at the Department of Defense and Military Veterans, will be my guest at about 6:45 this morning. So that's just a flavor and a sample of some of the stories we have lined up for you over the next 3 hours. But of course, each member of the Morning Brief team at their post once again this morning, ready to serve you. And Musa with news updates at the top and at the bottom of every hour. Rob Byrne with your traffic every 15 minutes or so. Zaikan is watching your sport throughout the morning. Melissa Puta with your Morning Brief in brief, and that's coming up in the next few minutes. Dowling Lechela has your economics, business, and market news covered, and Sipho Mantula with your Africa update just before 7 a.m. I'm taking your calls throughout the morning. The number to dial 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes to the number 061 410 4107. On social media, we are at SAFM Radio on X, SAFM Radio on Facebook and Instagram, and as always, we are live on our YouTube channel, that is SAFM Radio. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The first hour of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Get tested this April at Specsavers, and we'll give you a free optical frame up to the value of 1,000 Rand. That's right, get a free frame up to the value of 1,000 Rand when you purchase a comprehensive eye examination at Specsavers. Book online at specsavers.co.za or visit your nearest store nationwide. Early detection is key. Get tested today. Specsavers, for affordable eye care and a whole lot more. T's and C's apply.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
14 minutes after 6. Let's turn to Melissa Puta with the Morning Brief in brief for this morning. Hey, Melissa, good morning.
Morning, Thulasizwe. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to be back with you this morning. So let's start with this investigation into this case of the sexual abuse and rape of this child in Matatiele. We're getting some new details, are we?
Yes, so the latest development in the story is that it is proven to be a challenging case, including so some of the challenges that the National Police Commissioner General Fani Masemula has provided is that with the absence of witnesses and the complexities around the DNA evidence, there are quite a lot of empty gaps that are being left. In this case, no foreign DNA has been found on the victim, and there are no other formal suspects that have been, found outside of the three that were found previously and that DNA was taken from.
Yeah, and a bit of a debate about whether or not the DNA was taken from the one person of interest who's a school principal in the area.
Police Minister Senzo Mchunu did, in a statement yesterday, clarify that while there are three people of interest that have been found and DNA has been collected, there are no new people, and this includes the principal, and this is followed by the fact that social media was sort of debating that is the principal being, investigated the way that he should be investigated, and Senzo did clarify that investigations are still ongoing, and he will provide further details once they find new people.
Yeah, quite a sensitive one to handle. Lots of public interest, but at the same time, police saying that they absolutely have to follow the right procedures and processes, and urging that everyone just, bear with them while this investigation is being undertaken. Melissa, the other big story that you are watching comes out of the Western Cape. Tell me about this fire in Wellington. Quite devastating.
Yes, quite. A big fire, devastating fire, in the new rest informal settlements in Wellington in the Western Cape has left over 800 people displaced. It's destroyed around 200 structures, and at least 2 people are said to have died as a result of this fire. However, Gift of the Givers has pledged to offer ongoing support, providing relief over the next few days and extending further assistance for those in need in the area.
Yeah. And then in terms of legal matters, tell me about the troubles of the impeached former public protector, Busisiwe Mkhwebane. Her troubles just won't end, will they?
No, and it seems a new one is brewing. She has condemned the legal practice councillors' move to pursue her disbarment, calling it politically motivated. And this follows, the LPC's confirmation that it is seeking to have her struck off the roll of advocates based on findings from the Section 194 parliamentary inquiry, which concluded that Mkhwebane was guilty of misconduct and incompetence during her tenure. And she's saying simply because she isn't practicing currently as an advocate, and this is coming out of left field. So she does feel like, there are other hands that are involved in this decision, and she is going to, sort of fight this or challenge this rather moving forward.
Yeah. Tell me about what the Portfolio Committee on Human Settlements has been saying about the building collapse that happened in George.
The Committee of Human Settlements has called for swift accountability following the regulatory lapses at the National Home Builders Registration Council that contributed to the tragic building collapse in George. This happened in May of 2024, where an apartment building collapsed while under construction, resulting in about 34 deaths. There are investigations that are still going on in this regard. However, the only sort of effective change that has happened is that the CEO has been suspended, but the committee is saying this is not enough. This was almost a year ago, and they aren't really seeing, the necessary punishments and people being held accountable in this regard.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for that, Melissa. That's Melissa Puta, the morning brief producer, just giving you your morning brief in brief. Admittedly, try as we may, we can never cover everything within the 3 hours that we have. So part of what Melissa does is just give you a few of the highlights and some of the big stories that help you complete your picture this morning.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
So let me give you a sense of what your weather is looking like on this Monday morning. There are 2 warnings that have come through from the weather service. The first one is a yellow level 4 warning. It says severe thunderstorms with heavy downpours leading to flooding of settlements, both formal and informal. Those conditions are to be expected. They also include flooding of low-lying areas, bridges, danger to livelihood and livestock, as well as damage to property and infrastructure. Those conditions are expected over the northern and eastern parts of the Northern Cape. Then we have a yellow level 2 warning. It says severe thunderstorms resulting in heavy downpours, leading to localized flooding of susceptible roads, low-lying areas and bridges, as well as damage to property and infrastructure. Those conditions expected over the central and southeastern interior of the Northern Cape, Western Free State, and the extreme northwest province. Then the rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria will be cloudy at times with a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 24. Johannesburg, cloudy at times with a minimum of 14 and a maximum of 21. And Mbombela will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 16 to 24. Polokwane, partly cloudy, 16 to 26. Mahikeng will be cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 17 to 24. Bloemfontein, cloudy with widespread showers and thunder showers, 15 to 20. Kimberley will be cloudy with widespread showers and thunder showers, 16 to 21. Uppington will be cloudy with widespread showers and thunder showers, 17 to 22. Cape Town will have morning fog, otherwise cloudy at times with a minimum of 21 and a maximum of 24. George, partly cloudy, 16 to 27. Gqeberha will be partly cloudy, 19 to 26. East London, partly cloudy, 19 to 28. Durban will be cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 20 to 26. Richards Bay, cloudy at times, 19 to 31. And finally, Pietermaritzburg will have morning fog, otherwise cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 15 to 26.
Don't wake up to less money or no money in your account. Add an extra layer of security for unusual transactions. Nominate a trusted person on the Standard Bank banking app. If something seems off, they can decline transactions for you, even while you sleep. Get Trusted Person on your banking app today. Visit our help center on the banking app to learn more. Another lesson to #BeatTheScam. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
Yeah, at coming up to 23 minutes after 6, let's turn to the story now. South Korea's highest court has formally removed President Yoon Suk-yeol from office after months of legal and political turmoil. The dismissal follows a controversial martial law declaration in December last year, which led to widespread protests and a vote to impeach Yoon. His removal marks a dramatic fall for the former prosecutor turned president, whose actions have left the country facing significant political uncertainty. Let's turn now to Thembisa Fagute, the director at Africa-Asia Dialogues and global governance analyst. Good morning to you, Thembisa, and thank you for your time. So it was swift, wasn't it? I mean, this happened in December last year and was followed swiftly by defiance by Parliament, which then later voted to impeach him. Then the court processes ensued. But it's not the end of the matter, is it? Because it is an impeachment that has now been endorsed, but the nation remains quite divided.
It was very swift, but at the same time, I think President Yoon his ambitions. Right, look at the timeline. Something that has never been heard of. It's complicated.
No, Thembisa, I tell you what, Thembisa, we're battling with your line. So I tell you what, let's just take you off for a moment and just redial and see if we can get you on a better line. Thembisa Fagute, there, we want him to weigh in on the impeachment that has now been confirmed by the Constitutional Court in South Korea of the President Yoon Suk-yeol, who declared martial law in December last year, and subsequent to that being defied by members of Parliament, who then went on to vote to impeach him. And then now that decision has been confirmed by the Constitutional Court. But of course, his troubles don't end there, the troubles of President Yoon, in that there's also the criminal element of that investigation, which still have to run their course in terms of being tried before the country's courts. So the suggestion I was making to Thembisa there is that the country remains divided over this matter, because you will have seen in the period while this matter was before Parliament and the courts that there was an issue of protests in support and protests against President Yoon Suk-yeol. And the interesting thing is that he had played a role in the impeachment of the former president, Park Geun-hye, who was impeached a few years ago. This was the time when the president who's now been impeached was a prosecutor at the time and was one of the leading figures in the processes that unfolded around the impeachment of former President Park. So, you know how these things turn around, and the outcome is such that now he finds himself in exactly that position that the former president also faced. So let's see if we've got Thembisa Fagute back on a better line. Thembisa, good morning once again. I was saying that this matter of the impeachment has now been finalized by the highest court in South Korea. But it doesn't mean that this matter is over, in that the country remains divided and there's still the criminal elements that are still being investigated.
Yes, I hope you can hear me better
Yes,
now,
we can.
Thulas.
That's much better.
It is still being investigated, and it was quite swift, as you correctly put it. But I think President Yoon miscalculated his ambitions. And if you look at the timeline, you can see that he was hoping that he was going to get support. The first time in recent history of South Korea that you have a president declaring a martial law, which is actually what triggered all of this. And martial law is like a swear word in South Korea because of the history, but importantly because of the country that wants to see democracy thriving. And you have a person who was celebrated as a persecutor over the past, and the one who actually promoted himself and presented himself as a defender of democracy, going ahead and issuing that martial law, which created all of these problems for him.
It's amazing how he finds himself in the exact same position with the impeached former president Park Geun-hye, and he had played a critical role, one of the leading roles in that impeachment process.
Yes, indeed. I mean, he was, as I said, celebrated for all high type of persecutions and cases in South Korea, and he finds himself in the same position. But you can't discount the trajectory here and the link between the emerging right-wing politics, whether it's Donald Trump or all others that are currently embracing this right-wing politics. I think he was also hoping that he was going to get support of some sort, because it's exactly the same trajectory that we see around the world at the moment of this emerging right-wing politics, and he's unfortunately miscalculated and misbetted his fortunes, and he finds himself now in much more complicated and bigger trouble.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. That's Thembisa Fagude, Director at Africa-Asia Dialogues, also a global governance analyst.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey Zai, good morning to you. So tell me about Orlando Pirates keeping their title hopes alive. You and I thought that Sundowns had wrapped this thing up. What are we talking about? Title hopes here?
Never say never, they say, huh?
Yeah?
I think Pirates are plotting a Soweto-style comeback. And we might as well just grab the popcorn, because I think they've got something to look forward to. And they've got this man. He goes by the name of Mbokazi. He's a wall. And I think that's their talisman for now. They had a 1-0 victory over Polokwane City. It was in Kosinati Sibisi's second half strike enough to secure the win. And a rising star, Mbokazi, once again stealing the spotlight. He claimed another Man of the Match award with his rock-solid defending, and fans are hailing the 19-year-old as the future of South African football, with calls for his inclusion in the Bafana Bafana squad, and that's growing louder. Now, the gap we were speaking of earlier on Sundowns is now to 12 points, and Pirates will then shift their focus to continental duty. They prepare for their CAF Champions League quarterfinal second leg against MC Alger next week before returning to domestic action in the Nedbank Cup. Now, Sekhukhune United strengthened their chances of finishing in the top 3 of the Betway Premiership. They had a 2-1 victory over Cape Town City last night. Manchester United and Manchester City played to a goalless draw. And in another match, Fulham punished Liverpool 3-2 at Craven Cottage. Here's Liverpool boss Arne Slot assessing.
One of the reasons why we are in the position we are in is we don't make a lot of mistakes. And if we do, players try to make up for them. Now, this is also what we tried to do with the second goal, but unfortunately, instead of the ball being deflected going in behind, it went into goal. So this can happen, especially if you play a good team like Fulham. If you make mistakes, they have the quality to punish us. And I think in the end, we created second half so many chances that we could have made up for it, but we lacked time.
On to golf, and England's Mimi Rhodes overcame a strong challenge from South Africa's Cassandra Alexander to claim back-to-back wins at the Ladies European Tour in the Joburg Ladies Open. All happened at Modderfontein Golf Club yesterday. This was Rhodes' second consecutive victory in her rookie season.
Yeah, there was a lot of fans out there, cheering for Cass, and it was tough to, mentally focus with them, cheering a lot for her shots, and she played really well. So, I'm sorry to Joburg, but I just had to keep my focus and try and get the win done.
And finally, Gerda Steyn liberated the Two Oceans Marathon field, running the third fastest time of 3 hours, 29 minutes and 20 seconds ever recorded by a woman in the world-renowned 56-kilometer ultra. A woman after your own heart. I was about to still go there. But that's where we leave it for now. More sport. Top of the hour. I'm running out of time. Zaikan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musan. The headlines: ANC Deputy President Paul Mashatile has confirmed the party's National Working Committee will today meet to discuss the way forward regarding the Government of National Unity. ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa says the US is a sovereign state which is entitled to make its own decisions. His statement follows the decision of the US to implement 30% tariffs on South Africa. And officials in the Democratic Republic of Congo say torrential rain and floods have killed around 30 people in the capital, Kinshasa. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It looks a lot better on the N1 coming in through Crossmere. Off on the Monday morning can just bring some extra traffic back in from the Free State after the weekend through all the construction, but it looks easier and it looks like those roadworks may have been alleviated somewhat. The rest of Joburg looking fairly busy. In fact, as we cast our eye around the country, there is more traffic this morning. Kids are back at school tomorrow. So, of course, a lot of those families that disappeared for a week or so have arrived back on the weekend, and mum and dad are back in the traffic this morning. So it is busier than certainly it was last week, but Joburg, nothing jumps off the page as being monumentally heavy. Breakdown, stationary truck at Cliffdale if you're on your way out to Pietermaritzburg. One lane open. Traffic very quickly piling back to Key Ridge. Depends how long it's there. It could well work back to Shongweni. That's a problem this morning, as it often is. Kumashu Highway, coming out of Kumashu down through Dust Road on towards the N2. That's fairly heavy. No lights in Durban. South Coast Road, M7. That's bound to be slow. And Cape Town, extra traffic on the N1 this towards town. It's a vehicle fire on the side of the highway just by the N7 highway exit, so a bit of onlooking around that, and just traffic that extends a queue right through to Kuba. Interchange. Also a broken down vehicle on the N2 inbound at Mowbray Main Road, so coming through from the airport side, that traffic building up pretty heavily as well. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
So for the first update of the morning, let's turn to Ntauleng Lechelan. Ntauleng, good morning. So the U.S. economy has 99 problems, but at least job growth is not one of them, at least not for much.
Morning, Thulasizwe. And the labor market remaining strong, with the U.S. economy adding 228,000 jobs last month, exceeding economists' expectations of 140,000. Now, despite this growth, unemployment edged up slightly to 4.2% from 4.1% the previous month. Key sectors such as healthcare, transportation, and warehousing drove job growth, while federal hiring declined due to government workforce cuts. Meanwhile, analysts are cautioning that the labor market's momentum may be disrupted by President Trump's tariff announcements. The labor force participation rate in the meantime rose slightly to 62.5%, but average hourly wage growth slowed and permanent job losses increased. Now, private sector hiring continued at a slower pace, though, with ADP figures showing a decline in pay growth. Now, despite that upbeat, print analysts, of course, are bracing for the impact of tariffs and how that could weigh on hiring in the country.
So let's turn to the chips market that you and I watch so closely. Talk of a possible joint venture between TSMC and Intel. This is big, isn't it?
That's right, Thulasizwe. And we know it's big because Intel is trying to get out of this deep grave that it's dug itself into. So they're looking at JVs and partnerships. Intel and Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company reportedly in discussions to form a joint venture to operate Intel's factories, with TSMC potentially taking a 20% stake in the new company. Now, this development follows recent reports of potential acquisitions involving Broadcom and TSMC, as the White House and Commerce Department officials continue to press for a solution to Intel's ongoing challenges. Now, Intel has faced challenges in its chip-making business, including delays and failed tests, which have impacted its ability to attract external clients. The company's efforts to manufacture chips for other companies have also been hindered by its inability to provide the same level of customer and technical service as rival TSMC. Now, in March, TSMC reportedly pitched several major chip makers, including NVIDIA, AMD, and Broadcom, to take stakes in a joint venture that would operate Intel's factories. Intel has also appointed a new CEO, Lip Bu-tan, in an effort to revive its fortune. So TSMC seems to be playing very closely with Intel as it tries to recover. Now, Intel's financial performance has been downbeat, with the company reporting a net loss of close to $19 billion in its 2024 financial year. This was its first loss in nearly 40 years, driven by impairments. The company's shares also losing 60% of their value, but have since recovered some of the losses this year, rising by close to 12% on the back of those acquisition talks, on the back of those JV talks as well.
All right, Ndawuleng, please give us our first roundup of market activity here at home and elsewhere in the world. I imagine it's red screens all round, yeah?
It's really been a bloodbath, Thulas. And to show how bad things are, we are at levels last seen during the 2020 market rout that was induced by the COVID pandemic.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, right? It's just so bad in markets. And U.S. markets closed the week in the red despite the strong labor data we just spoke about. The S&P plunging close to 6% by the end of Friday's trading session. Local markets weren't spared, with the all-share down over 5%, fueled by a near 10% plunge in the Resources 10 complex. And to put things in context, according to a Business Day article, local markets have wiped out close to 2 trillion rands in value just between Thursday and Friday. Meanwhile, in currency markets, the local unit suffering as investors dump riskier assets like emerging market currencies like the rand. It's currently sitting at 19.25 to the dollar this hour. The tariff-fueled sell-off continuing into the new week, with Asian stocks opening in negative territory. Investors are concerned about, the global growth and inflation picture, especially as we now start seeing other countries slap the U.S. with reciprocal tariffs.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ndawuleng Lechela. Look out for more of Ndawuleng's insights in her second report of the morning. That's coming up just after 7:30. And in that report, among what she will tell you, she'll be telling you about how the tariffs and the response thereto is actually hitting the automotive sector. So that coming up just after 7:30 here on the Morning Brief.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Sipho Mantula. Raz, good morning. Let's start with developments out of the Great Lakes. So for the first time, the M23 and the government of the DRC are in direct talks, and this is with the involvement of the Togolese president.
Is that, as we are aware, that Wednesday it will be the Doha talks. The AU over the weekend appointed the president of Togo, Faure Kansibe, as the new mediator. Remember, Thulas, there have been some secret and private meetings between M23 and the government of DRC, as now we have the new mediator who will have to find his way in terms of dealing with the Doha process, as well as what we'll call Addis Ababa process. M23 have moved out of Walikale now, Thulas, as others are saying it's a goodwill gesture ahead of the planned peace talks with the government in Doha this coming Wednesday. So we'll wait and see, Thulas, what will happen with this mediation process that is in Doha, at the same time having a new mediator. SADC having other panel of mediators, including the former president of South Africa, Kgalema Motlanthe, and many others who are coming from the region.
Yeah, so multiple efforts to try and end that conflict in the DRC. This is an extraordinary story, Sipho, coming out of the United States in response to, was it one South Sudanese citizen that South Sudan would not accept, whose repatriation South Sudan would not accept, and this has now triggered a severe response on the part of the Trump administration.
Thulas, when looks at this issue, it is dating back to the Biden administration that granted the South Sudanese what you'll call a temporary protected status, called as TPS, which was set to expire on the 3rd of May this year. Now, when you look at this, Thulas, is that you are having refugees who are coming to the U.S. based on the war, natural disasters or what they will call extraordinary conditions. Now, the U.S. on Saturday saying that they will revoke all visas held by the South Sudanese, as you have said, is the issue of accepting those who moved out of the Sudan in 2013 and 2018. We have more than 400,000 people, who want to return to the South Sudan, and they are still trapped. And that's how the government will say will not allow any more South Sudanese to come to the U.S., raising also the geopolitics of the U.S. towards the South Sudan.
Yeah. Then tell me about these two structures and entities of the African Union, the Peace and Security Council, as well as the APRM, African Peer Review Mechanism. You're saying that they are convening in Gauteng today.
Tula, this is a very important meeting considering that you have a new AU chairperson coming from Angola, you have the CEO coming from Djibouti. Now, this meeting will look at the good governance, a pillar of conflict prevention, and the issue of peace in Africa. Most of the issues to us will be to look at what we call the Africa Governance Report of 2025, which actually was influenced by Burundi in 2024 to look at the link between security and natural resources in the African continent. But it was stemmed by the 2023 military coups or military revolutions that were going on in the Sahel region to us. Now, this meeting will be very important to look at the nexus or the link between the exploitation of the natural resources in the African continent and the conflicts. And secondly, it will be to look at the APRM strategic overview for 2025 to 2028. It's a very important meeting to us, and I hope we'll be able to give our listeners an update as well as tomorrow.
Absolutely. Lastly, Sipo, in your historical archives, 7 April 1994, one of the darkest chapters in African history was beginning to really unfold. Tell me about that.
It's almost 81 years, what we call the Rwanda genocide, but in the UN calendar, they call it the day to reflect of what happened when more than 1 million Tutsis were systematically murdered. Moderate Hutus also who opposed to this genocide, they were also killed when one looks at what has happened in 1994. The UN had many resolutions around this, and there was also the International Criminal Tribunal. Asante sana Tulas.
All right, thank you for that. That's Sipho Mantula there with your Africa update, just giving you a flavor of some of the stories developing on the African continent and its diaspora.
WAFCON preparations continue as African champions Banyana Banyana meet again with the Scorchers in a thrilling pitch battle. This is the international friendly. Experience the beauty of African women's football. South Africa versus Malawi. This Tuesday, 8 April at 2:30 p.m. Live streaming on SABC Plus, SABC2, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, and at 3 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag The Morning Brief.
It's coming up to 15 minutes to 7. Let's turn our attention to this story. The Department of Land Reform and Rural Development has officially now launched the Electronic Deeds Registration System, EDRS, seen as a major step in modernizing the country's land registration process. The digital system, rolled out under the Electronic Deeds Registration Systems Act of 2019, promises to speed up property deed registration, boost security, and cut down on corruption. Let's speak now to Karliz Knussen, who is Chief Registrar of Deeds at the Department of Land Reform and Rural Development. Good morning, and thank you for your time this morning. Tell me how the system modernizes and upgrades the country's deeds registration system.
Good morning to you and all the listeners. All the processes of deeds registration from the moment that you lodge your deeds, the conveyancers lodge them for registration, have now been able to be done electronically, where we currently work manually. With the electronic process then, it will automatically have a better turnaround time because there are many other manual processes that in between different steps now can be eliminated. So we foresee that where the manual process Our turnaround time for registration currently is 7 working days. We trust and hope that it will move to about 3 working days with the electronic process. Then also the archiving of the records that are registered will be automatically in the system, and that will also assist. And then I can just indicate that where we are now, it's like a small child that have been born. The system will continue to be developed and modernized going forward, of course, to improve all processes, etc.
So tell me about the problem that you are resolving. Is it that the challenge was the delay and the number of days? You mentioned the figure of 7 days that it takes on average, but was it also a matter of a backlog in terms of the deeds registration process?
We actually don't have many backlogs in the system. Our turnaround time, for example, is that 95% of everything that we receive is moved out within that short time of registration, 7 days of registration. So currently we don't really have backlogs in the deeds registration offices, but it was necessary to, of course, not fall behind against the rest of the world who have mostly electronic processes, but then also I think mostly to address other matters that was very problematic, for example, fraud and corruption. And with us being integrated now with, for example, with Home Affairs, Department of Justice, the company's offices, and so many matters can improve in that regard. I can, for example, say that we had fraudulent transactions from persons who pretended to be conveyancers. Our system will now integrate with justice, and it automatically shows our examiners that this person is still on the roll and can practice and can lodge the deeds for registration. When it comes to Home Affairs, a person transacting, many transactions, for example, was saying that a owner of land have passed away and there's a representative of the estate or executor transacting. Now Home Affairs will be able to immediately show us this person is still alive and not deceased. And so I can continue. So there are many interfacing that we still want to do, for example, with SARS, the local municipalities, etc. But I do think it will largely help us to, one fraudulent transaction tells a very bad story, although we register almost 1 million a year, and we don't want to have that negative reflection on deeds registration.
Lastly, talk to me about cyber security as well as personal information protection, because part of what you're doing is that the accessibility for members of the public to be able to check the deeds registry. You're opening this up a little bit more. So talk to me about those two factors.
Yeah, the deeds registration system is a public system. In other words, all our information is open for anyone to access. The only information we have in our system about a person is the names of the person, the ID number, and the marital status of the owner of the land. We don't have contact details or street addresses or anything else than that. So any person can access the system for information, and it is important that when you, for example, buy a property, that you do know that this is from the correct owner that you are buying, and not perhaps also being defrauded in a transaction. When it comes to cybersecurity and protection of information, We do work with CETA at this stage, where our system is hosted, but we definitely have audits on cybersecurity continuously on the system, and we have at this stage passed all the tests, and we hope to maintain that. We are also in control of the system ourselves, and I think that makes it easier to try and protect it. Of course, we are aware of the risks, and that there might be possible threats to that. But I can just lastly say, on information provisioning, we are now open throughout the country. Any person can access the system through eservices.gov.za, then move to EDRS, and you don't actually need to visit the office for your information.
All right, that's a good point for us to leave it. Thank you for your time this morning.
Yes.
That's Karliz Knussen, who is the Chief Registrar of Deeds at the Department of Land Reform and Rural Development.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Little heads up, don't leave it too long to get in the traffic this morning. It is noticeably busier this morning than it was last week. Of course, kids going back to school tomorrow, start of the new term. And of course, parents that had the kids away across the previous week, back in the mix this morning, or parents that just took a break to be with the kids last week, back in the mix. It is noticeably busier. Some of those key routes include the N1, pretty heavy this morning on the run out of Pretoria down through Midrand. Queues already from Brockfontein all the way down to New Road. R21 towards the airport, back queuing into the roadworks just after Bobsfontein down towards the Benoni exit. So if you're airport bound for flight connections, again, just add that extra time. It was a little bit on-off last week. You may have been lulled into a false sense of security that the roadworks have been lifted, but they are back this morning. Back again is the stationary truck at Cliffdale. The first of today's trucks, I must stress, they break down with great regularity there. It's only a two-lane section because of the Jersey barriers that are up for the roadworks. So you get a truck that breaks down, blocks the left lane. It means everybody into one lane, and that's what we've got, the big funneling situation from Kia Edge. Everybody ultimately squeezing into one lane to get past it up top of Cliffdale there, and it is very heavy for Pietermaritzburg bound traffic. Cape Town this morning, also noticeably busy. A couple of key routes that were sort of absent last week. The M5 coming in from sort of Retreat and Grassy Park all the way through to Kubo. Get a change. The M3, which was a beautiful run last week, is back to queuing between Constantia and Paradise Road. And if you're coming out of Tableview and Parklands, already jamming on the Marine Drive from Bayside Mall right down to the Paddocks Mall at that racecourse junction. Also the N7 worth a mention, certainly. The N7 roadworks, I think we're getting into about the fourth week of these now. Single lane section, N7 after Fort Trekker Road in Goodwood, already pushing heavy traffic back through to Frans Conradi. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
For news on South African industry and mining, Creamer Media's Engineering News and Mining Weekly has you covered. Click through to Creamer Media's Engineering News each day for the latest on the people and companies shaping the energy transition and South African industry. Keep your finger on the critical minerals pulse by visiting Creamer Media's Mining Weekly. For deeper insight, subscribe to the Engineering News and Mining Weekly magazine, out on Fridays. Creamer Media, current, credible, comprehensive.
The Saints are pumped up to fight even harder in search of 3 points on home ground.
And Smallbone has scored! His first Premier League goal! Liverpool stood like statues.
Meanwhile, the Villains are chasing a win to secure a decent top half spot.
Tielemans to Rashford. Rashford fires it in. Oh, it's gone in! It's turned over by Marco Asensio again. 2 from him, 2 for Aston Villa, and 3 points surely.
This is the Premier League. Experience a thrilling encounter between Southampton FC and Aston Villa FC on Saturday, 12 April at 3:30 p.m. live on S3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
At Duvet Tradeport, we specialize in helping businesses grow through state-of-the-art manufacturing, infrastructure, logistics services, and international trade links. We're an advanced environment for doing business where most ambitious companies gather. If you're seeking progressive opportunities and looking to build mutually beneficial relationships, move to duvettradeport.co.za to see your business grow beyond potential.
This is Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief.
All right, let's focus on this now. Several national government departments and entities are facing criticism for violating occupational health and safety laws, forcing employees to work in hazardous conditions. These issues include water leaks, electrical hazards, and inadequate ventilation. And these issues have raised serious concerns about the well-being and safety of staff members working in buildings, particularly in the Tshwane Central Business District. Let's welcome Zamani Dladla, who is the Public Servants Association Chief Negotiator at the Department of Defense and Military Veterans. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. Which ones are these buildings that are of most concern, and what are the common themes and issues that you pick up with these buildings?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and good morning to the listeners. Thulasizwe, the building that is in question is the Department of Military Veterans in Hartfield in Pretoria. The issues that we've picked up, which are OSS non-compliant, is that the building, when it rains, it floods into the basement, the parking basement, and it floods into the gym area where the employees are using for exercising purposes, and the offices as well. There is no ventilation. There is no windows in some of the offices, and there's only one entrance, so there's no exit. So at times when there are strikes with military veterans coming to demand their dues, the employees are locked inside the building and they cannot get out.
One entrance and exit, is it?
There's one entrance and one entrance, which is also being used as an exit. You know. So there's no emergency exit. When there's an emergency, people cannot get out, of the building. In case the building catches fire, people have to run into the same area that they used as an entrance.
What happens when you try and raise these issues? I believe that you can ask for inspections and, complain as well and ask for these inspections to be carried out. Have you done that, and what's been the responsiveness?
Thulasizwe, I must say to you that I'm very disappointed with the Department of Military Veterans, because we have a departmental bargaining chamber where we discuss matters of mutual interest, and OSS is part of this. We have been begging them for over 2 years now to at least find another alternative accommodation, because they have also admitted that this building, which they are renting out, is non-compliant. There was a prohibition notice that was issued about 3 years ago, but they did not comply with it. And we have also approached Department of Employment and Labour for inspection, but they are not coming to party. That is worrying me more, because I think at the beginning of February we approached the Department of Employment and Labour to come and do inspections, because employees are living in a time-ticking bomb. Anything can happen any day in that building.
Lastly, Zamani, what are the common features between the building that you are talking about, the Department of Defense and Military Veterans, with other problematic buildings? We talk here about Home Affairs, and I think I heard in particular about the Government Printing Works building.
The common features is it's non-compliant and the employees should not be there, because as I stated earlier on, that there is no ventilation in the building. You can see I went there last week, just after the rains. The parking area in the basement was full of water. And if you get out of your car, you have to walk in the pool of water into the building. But the employee, we have made so many suggestions to the employer that at least if they are unable to procure or secure another alternative accommodation, then they must let the employees to work at home up until they sort this out. Because it's really non-compliant.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. That's Zamani Dladla, who is the Public Servants Association Chief Negotiator at the Department of Defense and Military Veterans. And a bit of credit to the initial reporting on the story of our colleagues at Independent News. Let's check in now with N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, ANC National Working Committee to discuss future of the GNU, and heavy floods in DRC's capital leave dozens dead. Good morning. ANC Deputy President Paul Mashatile has confirmed the party's National Working Committee will meet today to discuss the way forward regarding the Government of National Unity. He says all parties in the GNU should work together in accordance with the Statement of Intent. The ANC and DA are at loggerheads in the GNU after the DA rejected the 2025 national budget and launched a legal challenge against it. Mashatile was speaking in Khayelitsha on the Cape Flats after delivering the Solomon Mahlangu lecture yesterday.
We want all the parties in the GNU to work in terms of that statement of intent. So we are expecting that parties in the GNU should move together, to work together. The DA decided, and the Freedom Front Plus, that they are in the GNU but they won't vote for the budget. Now I don't know how they expect us to work. A government who has no budget is no government. Can't work. So we will decide what we do next. We will have to talk to other leaders of the GNU as well. They are not a sideshow. They must feature prominently in how we move forward. We're not going to be engaging some bilaterals with the DA.
EFF leader Julius Malema says his party would never enter into coalitions with the DA and Freedom Front Plus, describing them as enemies of progress. The DA and the FF Plus are part of the Government of National Unity, while the EFF is not. Malema was speaking at an EFF Land Reclamation Day event in Sophia Town in Johannesburg yesterday.
Those are the people who killed our own people. When we say this is the enemy, if you don't know how the enemy looks like, just look at DA, just look at Freedom Front Plus. Those are the enemies of progress, and we will never work with them.
ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa says the U.S. is a sovereign state which is entitled to make its own decisions. His statement follows the decision of the U.S. to implement 30% tariffs on South Africa. Addressing the media in Shawelo in Soweto yesterday, Ramaphosa said South Africa would not react to the decision out of spite.
The United States, like any other country, is a sovereign country, and they are entitled to take decisions in whichever way they want to, like ourselves. We are a sovereign country, and we can decide on any matter that has to do with our international dealings with others. And so it is within our right, as it is within their right. They have imposed tariffs, and we are examining the impact of those tariffs on us, and we will be able to state what our position is. These are matters that we are going to continue dealing with in a very responsible and very, very proper manner.
The South African Communist Party says its alliance partner, the ANC, has no right to stop it from contesting elections independently. As the SACP gears up to contest the 2026 local government elections, the National Union of Mine Workers has resolved to support it and campaign for it. SACP General Secretary Solly Mapahila is adamant that they will go at it alone.
The ANC will have no right to stop us from contesting elections. We are an independent organization in our own right. We are an alliance of the ANC. We'll discuss these matters of our alliance relationship. Our movement is equally a dual membership system.
And finally, officials in the Democratic Republic of Congo say torrential rain and floods have killed around 30 people in the capital, Kinshasa. Rising river waters have devastated some parts of the city, which is home to 17 million people. Residents have been swimming or using canoes to reach safe areas. Vehicles can't reach the airport after the floods cut off the road that connects to the city centre. The BBC's Emery Makumeno has more.
We have quite a number of rivers crisscrossing the capital, and the two main ones have overflooded. Kinshasa is heavily densely populated, so the overflow of these rivers have brought a significant number of waters in the residences. You have people who have gone on the top of their roofs to seek refuge, and currently the rescue teams are trying to help those who have been trapped in their residences to find some sites where the government has organized for people to stay for a while.
Recapping the top story, ANC Deputy President Paul Mashatile has confirmed the party's National Working Committee will meet today to discuss the way forward regarding the Government of National Unity. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
You wouldn't want to pay more than you need to for your cell phone bill, so why overpay for car insurance? Switch to Outsurance and you could save big every month. Jermaine, a 43-year-old man, is a real Outsurance client who saves a whopping 360 Rand a month on his 2021 Mazda 3 1.5 Dynamic. Now that's what I call a real deal. Why pay more? Switch and save today. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Roadworks on the R21 southbound just before the Benoni exit. If you're coming out of Pretoria on your way to the airport, just note there is a hold up there. Factor that into your time travel calculations. The N3 this morning from Elands up through to Bedford Hughes heavy. There is a report of potholing on the N3 just around Van Buren, so it looks like motorists are slowing up and being held up on the run through to Galulis because of that. The Mike 1 from John Foster down to New Road, absolutely jam-packed. Heavy pressure out of Durban towards Pietermaritzburg. The stationary truck at Cliffdale is there. Queues all the way back through to Key Ridge. N2 is pretty bad this morning from the M7 Bluff exit all the way through to the roadworks at Westwood Mall. Cape Town, heavy out of Tableview, both the Bloberg Road towards Kuberg Road and the West Coast Road Marine Drive down through Sunset Beach. Both of those are heavy. The vehicle fire on the N1 inbound of the N7 is being cleared, but it's a heavy one for N1 motorists this morning coming through. Traffic sitting from Durban Road at Belleville right through to the Kuberg interchange. In the M3, you had a gap last week, but we're back to traffic queues this morning. Constantia all the way up and down Weinberg Hill towards Paradise Road is the queue extent. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SFM Sports headlines. Soccer action. Kaizer Chiefs coach Nazruddin Nabi says their poor form has been due to bad luck. And in athletics, Kazakhstan is the queen of the Two Oceans Marathon again. Details just before 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's coming up to 10 minutes after 7 on this Monday. It's good to be in your company. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. This is the Morning Brief here on SAFM. So let me tell you what's coming up over this hour. In fact, two key conversations that I want to flag and highlight for you. The first one is with Kulegani Mate, who is the Business Unity South Africa CEO. We'll be talking in the wake of a letter that was written by some members of the business community to President Cyril Ramaphosa, as well as the leader of the DA, John Steenhuisen, expressing their concerns, basically saying that if the government of national unity were to be reconfigured with the exit of the DA and perhaps the entry of new political parties, it would represent, the way I read what was written, it would represent a setback for some of the progress that has been made, particularly around reforms to the economy. So I'll be talking to Kulegani Mate, the Busa CEO, in the next few minutes. And then I told you earlier on that I'll be in conversation with the public protector, Koleka Galega. This in the wake of what I said is 3 for 3 for President Cyril Ramaphosa in terms of the investigations that were undertaken by the Office of the Public Protector. 2 of them related to the handover of houses, RDP houses, to beneficiaries that President Ramaphosa interacted with one way or another. One was a handover, the other was the president visiting the beneficiary, I think a day later. And the complaint was this was an abuse of state resources and presenting it as, benefits of the ANC, whereas actually this is benefit of the government. So a conflation of his role as a country president and ANC president. That was the complaint. Then the third one had been laid by John Steenhuisen relating to an employment program in Gauteng that was announced by the president during campaigning ahead of the elections last year. So Koleka Galega will be my guest at about 7:20 in this hour. But of course, throughout these conversations and for any other matter that may be exercising your mind this morning, please do give me a call. The number is 086 000 2032. I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The second hour of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Can you hear that? It's the pitter-patter letting you know your roof is leaking. Terrible timing. The sound you were hoping for is the splish-splash of the beach holiday you've been saving up for. But don't let cash flow hold you back. Do both. Apply for a Nedbank personal loan and get our best interest rate with a loan of up to 400,000 Rand. Apply online at nedbank.co.za. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
The Saints are pumped up to fight even harder in search of 3 points on home ground.
And Smallbone has scored his first Premier League goal. Liverpool stood like statues.
Meanwhile, the Villains are chasing a win to secure a decent top half spot.
Tielemans to Rashford. Rashford fires it in. Oh, it's gone in! It's turned over by Marco Asensio again. 2 from him, 2 for Aston Villa, and 3 points surely.
This is the Premier League. Experience a thrilling encounter between Southampton FC and Aston Villa FC on Saturday, 12 April at 3:30 p.m. live on S3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
Coming up to 14 minutes after 7. In a bid to prevent political and economic instability, some of the country's business leaders have written to both President Cyril Ramaphosa and DA leader John Steenhuisen, urging them to resolve their differences and maintain the current Government of National Unity configuration. This comes as the DA's federal executive mulls over the party's next steps following the passage in Parliament of the fiscal framework and revenue proposals, which the party vociferously opposed. The DA's opposition to the 2025 national budget and the relationship between GNU partners will also serve before the ANC's top officials, its National Working Committee, and its highest decision-making body, the National Executive Committee. Let's welcome Kulegani Mate, who is the BUSA CEO, that is Business Unity South Africa. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. So I look at the names that signed up to this letter. They include names like Adrian Gore, Busima Vuso, Martin Kingston, Mike Teke, Nolita Fagute, and others. Firstly, as a matter of fact, are you part of the signatories to this letter, and if so, why?
I was going to say, firstly, good morning, Thulasizwe, and complain that you omitted my name.
Perfect. So my first question is answered. Why did you feel you needed to pen this letter as business?
The letter was really a private correspondence with the leaders, and I don't want to go into details. I do want to say just one thing, though, that has been picked on, which I think correctly, by various people in the president's response yesterday when he was asked a question.
Yes.
And he said, like, that like any body in society, businesses is allowed to express its view, and that's really what we were doing. Nothing more, nothing less. As citizens of this country, we're just expressing a view on the matters, pressing matters of the day, I should say.
Yeah. So in the letter, you make the point that you think that the differences of opinion, you appreciate that there's a complexity and difference of opinion that exists, but you think that the differences are bridgeable. And then you make the point that there would be a cost of failing to bridge those differences. Spell out for us what that cost that you foresee.
Again, Thulas, without really discussing the letter, what I will say to the listeners, last year after the elections and before the formation of the GNU, there's a lot of uncertainty about how things were going to go. And you remember this very well because you covered it, right?
Yeah.
And so the leaders, the political leaders in this country really pulled out, if you like, a second small miracle to the 1994 miracle, which is to put aside their differences and look at what is in the best interest of the country. And they formed this GNU. That was a really masterstroke. If you look and travel, people talk about this, how this was well handled, and all leaders really are receiving lots of credit for it because nobody expected it or saw it coming. What it has done is that it started restoring the confidence in our economy. And confidence is one of those things that you can't really pay big bucks for. You can only gain through consistent actions. And so when we started seeing that being restored, it indicated that we're on the right track. And all we're saying is that we should not take our eyes off the prize being stability in this economy, confidence, because it helps us create more jobs, grow the economy, and hopefully everybody having a better life.
But we're not talking here, Kollegane Mate, about an entire collapse of the government of national unity or even the collapse of the concept itself. At this point, it would seem that at best or at worst, we're talking about the DA exiting, but the rest of the other parties have not indicated that they're having those kinds of conversations. So what's the basis for all of that concern? One imagines that if you're talking about stability, why would the entry of another political party, say Action SA, not guarantee that stability? The reforms that you're talking about, the very same President Ramaphosa, who is at the forefront of those reforms, would still be there.
So we make no comment about the entry or exit of any party.
Yeah.
We're simply relating to the leaders what we think has put us on a path that started to show some green shoots for our economy. And that's what we would like to grow. We wouldn't want this to be squashed by anything. And so that's really the point. We're not commenting. It's not our place to comment on which party exits, which party joins, and for whatever reasons. That's not our place.
Yeah, I ask you because I just know that in later conversations that may come up, the suggestion that you are merely interested in protecting the interests of the DA and your own interests as business-friendly policies that you believe continue to be championed as long as the DA remains in that government.
Let me just talk on the point of the business-friendly policies. We obviously have never campaigned for business-friendly policies to the exclusion or of the rest of society. So business-friendly policies are good for everybody because they allow companies to grow, they allow the economy to grow, jobs get created, government gets more revenues and all of that. So it's not just a very narrow self-interest. It is in the interest of this country because, by the way, we are where we are because the books didn't balance. The books didn't balance because there's just not enough revenue being generated. And so you get into how do you fund the government programs, right? So growing the economy is what we need to solve these problems that got us to where we are. So when we are for business-friendly policies is because we believe high and sustained levels of economic growth will, in the long run, put us on a better path.
So lastly then, let me ask you about the president's response, and you alluded to it in passing. The part that you quoted where he said, like any other citizen, business is entitled to be heard, that part I think you've addressed already. But I don't know if you saw the emphasis that he put on not being dictated to by business, saying that we will absolutely not be dictated to, we are dictated to by the people, even going as far as to say the people dictate to us, finish and clear. Were you surprised by that? Is there anything in that letter that you think elicited that kind of strong response that says, I mean, it seemed to me that there was a stronger emphasis on that than on you as business, like any other citizen, having a voice. Were you surprised by that?
So, I mean, you as you know, Thulasizwe, it would be inappropriate for me to comment on the president word for word.
It's
That's
not for
just
a lack of trying,
right. So, I'm glad you appreciate that, Thulasizwe.
But did you notice it, though?
So what I can say is that we really appreciate the fact that the president does make the point so that it's not lost on everybody that business is a citizen of this country. It's entitled to express a view. That's what we did, and we would like to leave it at that.
All right. Thank you for your time this morning. That's Kulegani Mate, who is the CEO of Business Unity South Africa, BUSA.
WAFCON preparations continue as African champions Banyana Banyana meet again with the Scorchers in a thrilling pitch battle. This is the international friendly. Experience the beauty of African women's football. South Africa versus Malawi. This Tuesday, 8 April at 2:30 p.m. Live streaming on SABC Plus, SABC2, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, and at 3 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag the morning brief.
22 minutes after, in fact, 23 minutes after 7. I don't know what's going on this morning. President Cyril Ramaphosa was 3 for 3 in being cleared by public protector Koleka Gcaleka of allegations leveled against him that all related to his activities as ANC president. In the first complaint, Gcaleka found Ramaphosa did not violate the Executive Members Ethics Act when he announced a Gauteng government-funded jobs program while campaigning for the ANC last April in Zandspruit in Johannesburg. She then went on to find that the president's participation in 2 house handovers, one in the Free State and another in the Northern Cape, did not amount to misconduct on his part. Advocate Koleka Gcaleka joins me now to take that conversation forward. Good morning, Public Protector, and thank you for your time. So let's start with this complaint about this government program, that the jobs program that the president announced. The complaint there was from John Steenhuisen. What was the basis on which you found that there was no EMEA violation by the president?
Which the president had announced in Gauteng. Firstly, we found that the program had already been announced by the Gauteng government. It was already in the public discourse, and furthermore that it was already being announced by government throughout, including the presidency, on social media, etc. So there couldn't have been a way that the public would have been misled that this is an ANC program and not that of government.
So the horse had already bolted as far as you were concerned, as far as that announcement is concerned, and you found no basis to find that this announcement being made in Zandspruit, casted as the ANC-led government at the time, would create all of those jobs, as opposed to, you know, some of them would come from the private sector, for example.
Indeed not, because what is critical here was for us to establish whether the announcement or the pronouncement by the president would have misled the public to believe that these are programs by the ANC as a political party and not those that are being delivered by the government.
So tell me about the other complaint related to, in fact, the 2 other complaints related to house handovers. But I want to start with the one in the Free State where the president participated alongside the then Premier Sisintombela in the Free State. What was the basis of you finding that handover of that house to Ms. Ntsaku did not amount to misconduct on the part of the president?
Well, that was a Free State government program, not to hand over the house through a Letsema program, but we established that even from the evidence that we obtained from the Department of Human Settlements, that was an allocated house, but it was not allocated to Ms. Ntsaku. And the president was not scheduled to attend a Letsema program in the Free State. He had a different program in the Free State, and we established this through evidence that we had obtained from the presidency, even from the Free State itself. What then transpired in that morning, the former premier then invited the president under the premise that he would be handing over a house that had been funded by a private donor and not by the department. So when the president handed over that house, he was under the impression that it was funded by a private donor. We then established that the former premier instead knew how that house was procured through the government systems and the government funding.
So there are disturbing elements around that house because, as you say, it was allocated to someone else, but the handover happened to Ms. Ntsaku. Are you taking any, corrective action as far as the premier is concerned? The former premier, that is.
Unfortunately, our powers goes as far as when somebody is employed within the state, within state affairs, or a deployee within state affairs, either through a functionary or an official in the state affairs. The former premier is not within state affairs anymore. That is what we had established, and which is unfortunate that by the time we concluded that investigation, she is no longer deployed or employed by the state. However, what we have done, because our remedial actions are not necessarily serving to be punitive to a current situation, but we would want to serve as reforms for future. So we have then directed the current premier to table the report before the legislature to ensure that executive members are aware of such and that such an action does not take place in the future. But we've also directed them to ensure that there is proper allocation of the house and that the family of former Ms. Burgers, the late current, rather Ms. Burgers, is located so that that house can be appropriately allocated.
All right. Let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. That is Kollega Kalega, the public protector.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning to you once again. Tell me about how bad luck features in how the premiership will be decided.
Yeah, the coach, Nazrid Nabi is waiting for luck, but it seems like, yes, they're getting bad luck, not the good kind, and it feels like the only thing arriving for Chiefs right now is frustration, and it's coming thick and fast. They were held to a frustrating 1-1 draw against TS Galaxy this weekend. Chiefs now sit 8th on the table with 30 points, and they're looking over their shoulder as Chipper United, just 1 point behind, still have 2 games in hand, with top 8 and top 3 ambition slipping and a 10-year trophy drought still haunting them. The pressure is high. Chiefs next face Mamelodi Sundowns in the Nedbank Cup semi-final at Loftus, but injuries to key defenders Inacio Miguel and Rushwin Dotley could leave them exposed. Nabi says they'll fight game by game.
On verra à la fin de la saison quel sera notre dernier classement.
About to finish in the top 3, we feel that we need to take game by game, and it's true that we are. It's true that we have to be honest. It's going to be very difficult because as well we are losing, or we have lost points. Well, probably we shouldn't have lost those points, but we're going to take game by game and go all in and see how we finish, how and where we finish the league.
Now, Orlando Pirates continue to chase the leaders and close the gap on Mamelodi Sundowns to 12 points. They had a 1-0 victory over Polokwane City. Now, they will, of course, prepare for their CAF Champions League quarter-final second leg against MC Algiers next week before returning to domestic action in the Nedbank Cup. Sekhukhune United strengthening their chances of finishing in the top three with a 2-1 victory over Cape Town City last night. And TS Galaxy coach Adnan Beganovic forecasts a bright future for defender Samukele Kabini abroad. Following his transfer to Molde FK in Norway, the 21-year-old became yet another player to leave the Rockets for Europe. The coach adds the deal also opens the door for Galaxy over a few more deals in the market going forward.
It's very important for me, it's very important for the club. We have our goal in the club, we have our politics, and then we just follow structure what we need to do. We need to produce our young players and sell not only for the Europe. Yes, it's a big success if we have an opportunity to sell our best players for the Europe, but also for this country. And then we show in the last 2.5 years how many good players we produce.
And finally, athletics has disdain just obliterated the Two Oceans Marathon field, running the third fastest time, 3 hours, 29 minutes and 20 seconds ever recorded by a woman in the world-renowned 56-kilometer ultra to claim her 6th consecutive title. All three of the fastest times on the course now belong to her. Shalmit Muriki finished runner-up with a distant 8 minutes and 40 seconds behind Steyn. It was Lesotho's Joseph Setlwale who won the men's race in 3 hours, 10 minutes and 46 seconds. That's a wrap. Morning Brief Sport, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musan. The headlines: Public Works and Infrastructure Minister Dean McPherson says he will continue in his portfolio until he's told he's no longer needed. His statement comes amid speculation of a split in the Government of National Unity over the VAT tax hike. ANC Deputy President Paul Mashatile has confirmed the party's National Working Committee will meet today to discuss the way forward regarding the GNU. He says all parties in the GNU should work together in accordance with the statement of intent. And the new week is bringing in renewed interest in the direction the markets will take after digesting the tariffs U.S. President Donald Trump announced last week. MarketWatch reports the U.S. stock market has lost some $9.6 trillion since just before Trump's inauguration. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just a reminder for motorists driving Kroonstad through to Koppies on the N1, doing that run between Bloem and Joburg, north of Kroonstad. There's some really bad potholing. We first were alerted to these yesterday afternoon, with the alert being the breakdown, the stationary vehicles after having hit the potholes and having to attend to damaged tyres and replacing tyres and what have you. It's very bad potholing on that section. They're very deep and they're very large, so just keep your eyes open for those. Hopefully SANRAL will respond today. They all know about it. It is a toll road after all, so you would think there's some sort of urgent escalation required there, but just go very careful. If you're driving overnight, very difficult to see those potholes and very damaging as well. Highways this morning, Joburg fairly busy, but I've certainly seen it worse. Might be a bit worse tomorrow as the schools go back, but at the moment we're queuing up on the N1 between Beyers-Naudé and Rivonia Road. N3's got traffic all the way from Germiston right through to Modderfontein Road up at Edenvale, and of course the roadworks on the R21 to worry about if you're airport bound this morning coming from Pretoria. Just make sure you've got plenty of time to get through that Bupsfontein and exit down to the Benoni off ramp where the works are. Broken down vehicle M1 south at Linwood Road causing some delays leaving Pretoria as well. Durban jam-packed on the N2. It is heavy this morning from the M7 Bluff exit all the way through Westwood Mall. Stationary truck at Cliffdale. I did a time check there. It's about 25 minutes at this stage and possibly growing to get past that on your way to Pietermaritzburg. Cape Town N1 from Belleville all the way through to Cooper. Get a change, looking pretty heavy. M3 is back to queuing between Constantia and Paradise Road. And if you're on the Coburg Road this time of morning, you do tend to get stuck in traffic between Plattencliffe Road and Blowberg Road as you head towards Killarney Gardens. Very slow passing the refinery area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation. The business update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning once again to Ntaoleng Lechela. Ntaoleng, in this hour, you're focusing just a bit on the automotive sector. Tell me about PGM, Platinum Group Minerals, and the prices thereof declining in the wake of what's happening in that sector.
That's right, Tulas. Those prices have continued to decline as U.S. President Trump's tariffs on imports took effect. And while those metals aren't directly impacted, they are feeling the pressure on the back of the 25% tariff on automotives and parts. That tariff, of course, on all vehicle imports is expected to drive up car prices in the U.S., slowing domestic demand and prompting car makers worldwide to possibly cut production. And analysts say this will likely result in lower and more volatile near-term demand for PGMs, which are used in catalytic converters for car engines. Now, the platinum price fell 3.5% on Friday, following a 3.1% drop on Thursday. Shares of major PGM producers, including Anglo American Platinum, Impala Platinum, Northam, and Sibanye, also suffered significant losses, with Implats taking the biggest hit, down over 17% in Friday's session. Now, the decline in PGM prices really a big challenge to the local mining industry, which has been hoping for a recovery in prices after shedding shedding thousands of jobs last year. Now, despite the near-term volatility, Business Day noted that the Minerals Council South Africa remains positive about PGM's long-term demand and price outlook, driven by the use in those internal combustion engines, the green hydrogen economy, and jewelry. Now, South Africa poised to gain when those prices are back on the up, as it is the home to an estimated 77% of the world's PGM reserves.
Yeah. So in terms of the auto manufacturers,
Yes.
I see that Jaguar, Land Rover are not waiting for the market to determine what happens now that these tariffs have been levied in the United States. They're just taking the decision to pull back on shipments to the U.S.
That's right, Silas. And this, of course, just a temporary hit on the brakes on shipments of its British-made cars to the U.S. And just for a month, they say this is to assess the impact of that tariff. Now, this comes as it says it wants to develop a more mid to longer term plan to address the new trading terms. Now, the British car industry, which employs about 200,000 people directly, is highly exposed to the new tariffs, with the US being the second largest importer of British-made cars, accounting for nearly 20% of imports. Now, Jaguar Land Rover, one of Britain's largest car producers, considers the US an important market for its luxury brands, selling 400,000 vehicles annually. Now, exports to the US account for almost a quarter of its sales. Meanwhile, while it's hit pause on shipments, it's believed that Jaguar Land Rover has a couple of months' supply of cars already in the US, which will not be subject to the new tariffs.
Lastly, Ntaoleng, please give us another roundup of market activity.
So financial markets across the globe are in disarray as investors play it safe amid the tariff moves. Many are awaiting, to see the tit for tat following China. There are now reports suggesting that the EU is considering retaliatory measures. While that plays out, Asian stocks are in the red, with the Hong Kong Hang Seng plunging 11% and the Japanese Nikkei losing over 6%. Over in Wall Street, futures in negative territory, not as deep into the red as last week, but looks like those markets are starting to pass some of the losses we saw last week. Then back at home, markets shedding close to 2 trillion rands in value between Thursday and Friday. This after the top 40 index delivered a record performance in the first quarter. Now, that being wiped out with the all share down over 5% in Friday's session. The rand in the meantime also taking a hit on the back foot this morning. It's sitting at 19.20 to the dollar.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntaoleng Lechela. Look out for another update from Ntaoleng in the third hour of the show, just after 8:30. It simply is impossible to overstate just how big the story around the tariffs is. I mean, I'm looking at screens in the studio here, all the international broadcasters talking about one leader from one country or another seeking to engage the United States on this issue of tariffs. And in that update, when Dowling comes back, she will tell you what our government is doing to try and engage as well on this issue of the tariffs that are being levied by the United States.
EFC is live this Thursday. From the wilds of Reunion Island and the ancient lands of Zimbabwe, two raging bulls meet for a heavyweight title clash as Elvis Moyo takes on Anthony Morrell. Plus Fahis Jacobs and Sibusiso Sovendile fight for bantamweight gold. EFC 122, live from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let me start with a call from Moses in Bramley. Good morning to you, Moses. You want to respond and react to the conversation we had with the public protector a few minutes ago?
Yes, Thulasizwe, good morning. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
You know, Thulasizwe, this public protector, just like Mukwebane, she has already picked a faction. And we cannot serve by a public protector who's already showing us that she thinks we are stupid, that she has already picked a faction. So, just like Mukwebane, these are useless public protector. We need, if maybe it could happen, we need to return to Lima Donzela and be our life public protector, because she served that office with dignity. Unlike the previous one, because we didn't have problem. Womushwana, they were check collectors. But Madonzela served us very well. This one, really, for Ramaphosa, she will never get anything wrong with Ramaphosa, because she was handpicked.
But tell me, Moses, what about the current reports makes you hold the view that you hold of the current public protector? And let me just explain a bit more for you. In the one instance, she says the finding was that the president, that's in the Northern Cape, visited the home of this elderly person a day after the house had been handed over. In the second one, she says the president was not aware that he was going to be taking part in the handover of a house, and when he became aware, he was under the impression that it was a privately donated house. And then the third one, it's about the jobs program in Gauteng, where she says it was already in the public domain, so it can't have been said that the president used that announcement to campaign for the ANC. What about those specific three makes you hold the dim view that you hold of the public protector?
You know, Thulasizwe, we've got a shocked president. I call him Mr. Ramashoka. He's always shocked. So it's not a surprise. We've got always a shocked president. Yeah. I'm shocked all the time.
So he was shocked that he's handing over a house.
Yes, he's a shocked president.
Okay. Moses, thank you. Let's leave it there for this morning. Let me go to Churchill in Mthatha. Good morning to you, Churchill. You want to talk to me about the DA and the Government of National Unity?
Yes, morning, Thulas. You know, Thulas, I've been observing this GNU, and I'm looking at the GNU as well as the progressive parties on the left. My analysis is that when you look at the left side, you've got the biggest political parties on that side, which is the MK as well as the EFF. Now, these two will always be at each other's throats because they want to see each one of them being destroyed, because one of them wants to make sure that it's the most relevant in as far as addressing the issues of the black majority.
Yeah.
That's going to be going on and on and on, this other side. This side, you've got two major political parties, which is the DA as well as the ANC. Now, the same scenario is happening here. Wants to make sure that the ANC is destroyed or the DA is destroyed. And this is what we are going to be seeing as we go on right through, because the DA is always going to make sure that, you know, some sort of a bottleneck in as far as the ANC, you know, pushing with its progressive policies. But also, on the other side, the ANC also wants to make sure that in order for it to have a sigh of relief, the DA must be destroyed.
Yeah.
That's going to be happening here as we go on.
So you're saying they're competing for the hearts and minds of South Africans more than they are collaborating?
Absolutely. Right. And unfortunately, as we go on, it's the South Africans and ordinary taxpayers that are going to pay the brunt here.
All right. Thank you for that. That's Churchill in Mthatha. Let me go to Sipho in the Northern Cape. Good morning to you, Sipho. You want to talk to me about Trump and the tariffs? Sipho, can you hear me?
Hear me?
Yes, I can. Please go ahead.
Yeah, no, look, I wanted to say it is these tariffs that were made by Trump are unfortunate for us and regrettable. But I think as a country, we stand to have an opportunity to look at other markets. Of course, there's China, there's Brazil or BRICS, and also begin to look at our inter-trade processes within Africa, because Africa has about 1 billion plus population. Maybe we need to be innovative and creative as a country and be sort of imagine ourselves beyond this Trump, shenanigan, if you like, because if we're going to focus on that, not focus to exactly what is at hand, I think we may have a problem, and it's unfortunate that AfriForum took the stance which they did to go to that level of, insinuating that there's a genocide in the country, whereas there's no such. Of course, there's a crime issues where farmers have been killed. One doesn't promote that. One doesn't want any lives to be lost, But unfortunately, this is where we are. And I think we should not lie for political expedience, but we should be able to be honest as South Africans to say, this is where we are, this is what is happening. How do we address this as South Africans? Unlike, defining and isolating ourselves as a better race than others. I think that is a tragedy.
Sipho, thank you for that. And I do wish everyone had, level heads, was level-headed as you are, and just saying that we must stick to the truth, acknowledge where we have weaknesses, but not really seek to lie for the sake of political expedience, says Sipho there. Let me go to Pat in Katlehong. Pat, good morning. Also on the same issue of Trump and the tariffs.
If AfriForum would have told Trump the truth, maybe we still suffer the same fate anyway.
In fact, I do suspect, Pat, actually, I do suspect that at this point, we're now at a point where everyone is being slapped with tariffs.
Yes. But my point is this. Remember, America has invested in all the countries in the world. Remember, they still have McDonald's, they still have KFC, they still have Coca-Cola then. So then I still think that the world has an edge, because if we start demonstrating that by boycotting those products or those companies, then we would have sent a good message to the Americans as well.
Sure. So you're calling for a boycott of American products?
We can't be dictated by one person, really.
Okay.
I mean, dictating the world. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that. That's Pat in Katlehong there. Let me play one or two voice notes. I think the first one I want to go to is in reaction to the conversation we had a bit earlier on with the CEO of Business Unity South Africa, Thulasizwe Simelane.
Hi, Tulani. This is Mo from Benoni. Thulasizwe Simelane, the guy is just interviewed now. He is making no sense. His answers are everywhere but where you want them to be. Like, you're asking him direct questions, it's like he's not even willing to entertain what you're asking him. He's like nowhere. It's like he's not in the same interview as you. This is disappointing.
Now, I hear the point you're making. What I picked up, though, just in response to you there, and perhaps to, I don't know, in fairness to him, I picked up that he prefaced it by saying this was meant to be private correspondence. And I suppose it then became difficult for him. It is in the public domain, and one does wish that he had engaged on it now that it's in the public domain. But I respected that he said this was meant to have been private correspondence and doesn't want to respond, for instance, to the strong words of the president, where the president was saying they will not be dictated to by government. And I think that's all I can say in fairness to Thulasizwe there.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Can you ask Mr. Mate, is he trying to tell us that our economy, in order for it to be confident and stable, it needs quite a political party. Without MK, without EFF, nothing will happen. Our economy will crumble. These guys are very funny. It's funny that the black people are talking like this, that we also need a white dominance, a political party in order for our economy to be stable.
Yeah.
Where are we going with this?
Yeah. I take your sentiment, but then again, also just to be fair to him, he did say that they as business are not concerned about which party is in and which party is out. They're just saying that in terms of the current configuration, there's been a fair deal of confidence and a fair amount of progress made, particularly in as far as economic reforms that we've been talking about for many, many years go. So modest shoots, green shoots in the economy, promising developments in the economy is what he was talking about. I did pose that question about, would it not be stable if other parties were to come in? And he did say that they're not concerned with which party is in and which party is out. For them, it's a matter of principle. Thank you for those. We will have more time to engage, to take more of your calls as well as your WhatsApp voice notes a bit later on here on the show.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Top of Joburg first. I was just having a look at the M1 highway. It's unusually busy to get off at the Winnie Mandela off-ramp, north and particularly southbound. And that's often an indication there's some traffic light problems either at the highway or just south. And we can confirm Winnie Mandela and Sloane is off. So the highway bridge is busy and coming off, particularly southbound, but also northbound, pretty difficult as well. You're basically turning into a wall of traffic. N3, Germiston's Elan's right through the Modderfontaine's pretty busy. N3 going south is just queuing up into Galilee's as well. And there's some problems with pressure on both the N12 and R24 routes arriving into Galilee's interchange from the east as well. The mighty Mopani Highway in Pretoria, not bad for a Monday, but you will see some queuing pressure just after Bremer Street down towards Eskia and Perth Valley. Stationary truck up at Cliffdale. It's been there since just before 6 o'clock this morning. We warned the longer that stays there is directly proportional to the length of the queue, and at this stage it is a plus 30-minute backlog from just after Shongweni all the way to Cliffdale. Off-ramp, used to Cassia Road and the old main road. Just keep yourself moving through that area. N2 North still jam between the M7 and Westwood Mall. Cape Town this morning. M5 is pretty busy from Rondebosch up towards the Kuba interchange. Marine Drive, not too bad. It is busy this Monday morning, but we've seen it worse. And the Kuba Road quite heavy as you sit in traffic from Plattekloof Road up towards the Bloberg Junction, passing the refinery, all backed up, heading towards the Kalani Gardens territory. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
WAFCON preparations continue as African champions Banyana Banyana meet again with the Scorchers in a thrilling pitch battle. This is the International Friendly. Experience the beauty of African women's football. South Africa versus Malawi. This Tuesday, 8 April at 2:30 p.m. Live streaming on SABC Plus, SABC2, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, and at 3 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You wouldn't want to pay more than you need to for medical aid, so why overpay for car insurance? Switch to Outsurance and you could save big every month. Lorette, a 61-year-old woman, is a real Outsurance client who saves a too-good-to-miss 725 Rand a month on her 2024 BMW X1. Isn't it time you got the real deal? Don't pay more. Switch and save today. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
6 minutes to 8. Let's give credit to the initial reporting of our colleagues at the Herald in the Eastern Cape for this next story. In that province then, in the Eastern Cape, an alarming number of police-issued firearms have gone missing or been stolen, raising serious concerns about public safety and the adequacy of police firearm controls. Over the past 4 years, we are told hundreds of weapons have disappeared, many possibly falling into the hands of criminals. These weapons include powerful firearms designed for combat, amplifying the potential danger to communities already facing high levels of violence and crime. So let's speak now to Claire Taylor, who is researcher at Gun Free South Africa. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. So it's a large number of firearms. I think they say the number is from 2020 to now 362 firearms stolen or lost in the Eastern Cape. How concerning is that number?
Good morning. It's very concerning, but Gun Free's view on this is to take a holistic view. So that report focuses specifically on the Eastern Cape. But if we look nationally, police lose on average 2 guns every day. They could be high caliber weapons. They're most often handguns, they're service guns. But in addition to police losses, which are incredibly concerning, we also have on average private security guards losing 6 guns every day. Again, those are probably high caliber weapons. For example, we'll see in cash in transit heists, in addition to stealing cash, the robbers also steal the guards' guns. And in addition to that, we have civilians reporting the loss or theft of 17 guns every day. So this issue of leakage of guns from licensed gun owners to criminal hands is across the board. And we have to take a holistic approach to both focus on the recovery of those guns, and in addition to recovering them, we need to track and trace where they come from so we can understand where the loopholes are. But we also need to tighten controls over licensed guns. And there are 2 key issues related to that. The first is accurate record keeping, and the second is safe storage. And we need to focus on those 2 issues.
So as far as record keeping and safe storage goes, one would have thought that institutions such as the South African Police Service would have those kinds of systems. What does this number tell us about the adequacy of those systems?
You may think that they would have them, but we know from Gun Free South Africa's work that we've been doing for almost 30 years that record keeping is abysmal, that the Central Firearms Registry is dysfunctional and has been for many years. And there's been no effort by government to take this in hand and deal with it. We've developed research reports with recommendations, for example, establishing an independent authority that would take over the record-keeping function of the Central Firearms Registry. And we have examples of that around the world. So we're pressuring governments to take this very seriously. But I think the other point that we need to also take into account is accountability. And where there are cases where there's been criminality or negligence on the part of either police officials or security guards or civilians, they have to be prosecuted to send a strong message. And we're just not seeing that enough to send a message to peers that this kind of behavior is unacceptable.
Make that point for me again, Claire. You believe that prosecutions of police officers who are negligent with their firearms would make a difference?
And for a criminal, because we know of cases where they're selling guns or renting guns out, and they need to be held accountable and prosecuted.
I see. Then there's the factor of recovery of these firearms. Do we know the rate of recovery? We know how many go missing, particularly in this instance, focusing on the Eastern Cape, but how many are recovered?
So, for example, last year, there were about 9,000 guns reported lost and stolen from police and civilians, and about 3,500 were not recovered. So there's a significant number that continues circulating within the criminal community. And we also know that police operations like Shanela are not effective at recovery, that we need intelligence-led operations to recover these guns.
What is the weakness in as far as, because, the Operation Shanela is now the flagship program of the South African Police Service in terms of crime combating. What makes it inadequate for this particular purpose of recovering firearms?
So Shanela does broad stop and search operations. So, for example, there'll be a roadblock or they'll identify a particular community and do searches in there. The thing with guns is that they move very quickly within the criminal underworld, and you need to know where they're moving to and from. You need to know who key elements are. You need to understand the patterns, and for that you need intelligence. You can't just have a stop and search operation on a highway and hope that you're going to recover these guns. It's a very broad approach, and we need a more targeted intervention.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That's Claire Taylor, who is a researcher at Gun Free South Africa. At 8 a.m., let's check in with N. Musa with the latest news.
In our top stories, McPherson stresses critical importance of the GNU and over $9 trillion lost on the U.S. stock market. Good morning. Public Works and Infrastructure Minister Dean McPherson says he will continue in his portfolio until he's told that he's no longer needed. His statement comes amid speculation of a split in the Government of National Unity. This after the DA rejected the 2025 national budget and launched a legal challenge against it. McPherson says the GNU is important to the country and the DA has a role to play in it. He was speaking at a press conference in Cape Town yesterday.
I have a full week ahead. I'll continue to serve South Africans to the best of my ability. I think that the GNU is worth fighting for. I think South Africa is worth fighting for. And the GNU provides our country with the best possible chance to get through these very choppy waters at the moment.
Meanwhile, ANC Deputy President Paul Mashatile has confirmed the party's National Working Committee will meet today to discuss the way forward regarding the Government of National Unity. He says all parties in the GNU should work together in accordance with the Statement of Intent. Mashatile was speaking in Khayelitsha on the Cape Flats yesterday after delivering the Solomon Mahlangu lecture.
We want all the parties in the GNU to work in terms of that statement of intent. So we are expecting that parties in the GNU should move together, to work together. The DA decided, and the Freedom Front Plus, that they are in the GNU, but they won't vote for the budget. Now, I don't know how they expect us to work. A government who has no budget is no government. Can't work. So we will decide what we do next. We will have to talk to other leaders of the GNU as well. They are not a sideshow. They must feature prominently in how we move forward. We're not going to be engaging some bilaterals with the DA.
Reactions are continuing to the recent acquittal of Nigerian televangelist Timothy Omutoso, with some South Africans expressing concerns on the country's justice system. The High Court in Gqeberha, the Eastern Cape, cleared Omutoso, Zukiswa Situ and Lusanda Sulani of all charges including rape, human trafficking and racketeering. Judge Irma Skuman said the state had failed to present a strong case. Some people have described the ruling as a travesty of justice.
I don't think it's a good thing that he was found not guilty because of his track record, and so many people have come forth with so much evidence.
I feel like the people who have power, who have money, always get away with a lot.
There were witnesses, there were people who experienced it, people who had that trauma. The case was just shut. Now he's being sent back to Nigeria as a free man.
The justice system is failing us as women, and now we do not feel safe, going around.
I think our justice system is corrupt.
I think we must understand how the law works. It's about certain principles that without which a person would be vindicated. If something is not proven, it's not proven.
A 36-year-old man arrested for allegedly raping his 4-year-old niece is expected to appear at the Mahwelereng Magistrates Court in Mukopane, Limpopo today. The man allegedly raped the girl when a mother left her in his care at their home on Friday. The girl's mother found her crying in the suspect's bedroom. She took her to a clinic where the rape was confirmed. Police spokesperson Stephen Taking.
The incident occurred in their home. Provincial Commissioner of Limpopo, Lieutenant General Thembi Hadebe, condemns the ongoing sexual abuse on minors.
Further afield, and finally, the new week is bringing in renewed interest in the direction markets will take after digesting the tariffs U.S. President Donald Trump announced last week. MarketWatch reports the U.S. stock market has lost some $9.6 trillion since just before Trump's inauguration. Some economists say the markets are likely to continue falling as they did at the end of last week, amid White House defiance about its tariff move. Showan Bryce Peace reports.
Investors will navigate continued uncertainty emanating from President Trump's tariffs and its impact on pricing, inflation, and consumer confidence, after tens of thousands of people took to the streets of America over the weekend to protest his policies. For the protesters, tariffs were among a number of concerns expressed, including the erosion of civil liberties and massive federal government cuts to staffing and spending, including foreign aid. JP Morgan has raised its expectation of a U.S. recession from 40% to 60%, an issue that could have global ramifications amid the tariff distress as countries now jockey to strike new deals with the White House.
Recapping the top story, Public Works and Infrastructure Minister Dean McPherson says he will continue in his portfolio until he's told that he's no longer needed. His statement comes amid speculation of a split in the government of national unity. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Top of Joburg, no traffic lights again this morning. Winner Mandela and Sloane, and that always backs traffic up coming off the highway. So N1 from Rivonia, N1 north from Randburg, fairly heavy as you come off at that four-ways off-ramp. Basically, you're turning into traffic if you want to turn down towards the Bryanston area. N1 from Old Joburg down to New Road stays busy. It is starting to ease, but busy nevertheless. And if you're coming out of Pretoria, there's quite a backlog. A crash after Rigel Avenue near Solomon Mashlangu Bridge. That's causing quite a delay already, pushing traffic back to Gasfontein and back towards Atterbury Road. Still with the stationary truck at Cliffdale, plus 30-minute delay to get past that. Average speeds on that section about 9 kilometres an hour. Collision before Spaghetti Junction. That's why the N2 is still heavy coming up from the Bluff exit. This time of morning, you'd expect to get through there in improving situation, but not today. That crash just before 4 level causing the delay. Cape Town M5 from Rondebosch up through towards Kubo. Interchange is busy. N1 queues from Plattekloof Hill through the city centre. And a crash on Muway at the N2 bridge out at Mfuleni this morning. Still causing delays on Muway and backlogging traffic on the Old Foret Road locally as well. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SAFM sports headlines. It is soccer. Golden Arrows coach Manqoba Nciti believes KwaZulu-Natal football will suffer if Royal AM's top flight status is cancelled. And in cricket, the Proteas women are preparing for their tri-series against Sri Lanka and India. And that's preparations for the ICC Women's World Cup later this year. All the details just before 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
SAFM 104 to 107. Good morning. This is the Morning Brief on SAFM. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. It's good to be in your company on this Monday morning. So a lot of conversations that are on the go at the moment. A lot of you reflecting on what Business Unity South Africa had to say about the importance of President Cyril Ramaphosa and DA leader John Steenhuisen, finding a way to bridge their differences and overcoming their differences and maintaining the current configuration of the Government of National Unity. The point being made there, I spoke earlier on with Kulegani Mate, who is the CEO of Business Unity South Africa. The point that they are making in the letter that they wrote to the president is that the formation of the Government of National Unity has led to a great deal of confidence being infused into our economy, and also that there are some offshoots, some green shoots that are promising by way of starting to see results of some of these reforms in the economy, starting to produce some results. A lot of you responding and reacting to that conversation. I'll take your calls as well as your WhatsApp voice notes. And of course, others among you talking about the outcomes of the investigations by the public protector, particularly because we focused specifically on the investigations around President Cyril Ramaphosa. But those were not the only investigations and reports that were released by the public protector. There were quite a number of other reports at various levels of government and entities of the state. So I will take your calls. Do reflect on all of those conversations. I'll take your calls on the number 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. In the next few minutes, I'll be in conversation with the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Velenkosini Hlabisa. We're talking specifically about what he's calling for prudence as well as proper accountability and transparency in how the funds that have been allocated for disaster relief, some 1.4 billion rand set aside for that purpose, in how those funds are going to be spent. That conversation coming up in the next few minutes. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The third hour of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
EFC is live this Thursday. From the wilds of Reunion Island and the ancient lands of Zimbabwe, two raging bulls meet for a heavyweight title clash as Elvis Moyo takes on Anthony Morrell. Plus Fahis Jacobs and Sibusiso Sovendile fight for bantamweight gold. EFC 122, live from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
11 minutes after 8. Let's turn to this story now. The Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa has vowed to take strong measures to ensure and enhance accountability and transparency in how municipalities use the recently allocated disaster relief funds. With 1.4 billion rand set aside for flood-hit provinces, Hlabisa is implementing measures to ensure that municipalities effectively use the funds for their intended purpose, prioritizing disaster recovery and preventing misuse. The Minister, Velenkosini Hlabisa, joins me now to take that conversation forward. Good morning to you, Minister. Thank you for your time. The emphasis you placed on transparency and accountability for how these funds are used suggests to me that there's a particular problem that you've identified with regard to how disaster funds and funds that are ring-fenced, such as these, are usually spent by some municipalities. Am I correct in making that assumption?
Yes, good morning, Thulasizwe and the listeners of the radio station. Indeed, in the past, there has been allocations of grants and money intended for relief on disaster stricken areas, and then money accounted for. And sometimes, if you do an inspection in local, when a project is said to have been completed, you find none on the ground. So now, when we released this 1.4 billion, we wanted to state it up front. On a monthly basis, we require.
Minister, I'm battling with your line. Unfortunately, we are battling with the minister's line there. Let's see if we can get the minister on a better line. He was in the process of explaining past practice and what they've observed that they're trying to mitigate, right, in terms of how these funds are going to be used. One of the points he was in the middle of making was about instances where you are told that the funds were used for a particular project, but when you go to that project, you find that there's no project that has been done or even completed. Among the other concerns, of course, include issues such as poor workmanship in as far as some of these disaster relief programs are concerned. So let's see if we can get the minister back on a better line. I believe we do have the minister on a better line. So, Minister, you were outlining some of the difficulties and problems that you have encountered in the past in how ring-fenced funds, such as these disaster relief funds, have been utilized.
Yes, Thulasizwe, I'm sorry for that deadline. What we have encountered is that when a ring-fence grant is given to some municipality, it is used for an unintended purpose, only to find that money for disaster is used for salaries or any other business. We have to make it upfront that this money is only intended for the business plan that were submitted by municipalities and provinces that were affected by disaster. And we will hold every municipality and department accountable on monthly basis, on quarterly basis. And we will do the unannounced visits to projects so that we verify the report that has been given, then what is on the ground. Should we find any deviation, consequence management will be activated immediately.
So for the avoidance of doubt then, Minister, what is this 1.4 billion rand intended for in terms of disaster relief? What does it entail exactly?
It will differ from province to province and from department to department. For instance, a money given to the Department of Health, it is for the infrastructure that was affected, like buildings that were blown out by wind, as well as education, some schools that were affected in municipalities, some infrastructure projects that were affected, the roads, the bridges that were destroyed by the heavy rains. So it varies from municipality to municipality as per business plan that we will use to do monitoring.
And which stratum of government will be at the coalface of implementing these projects? Is it municipalities? And what's behind that decision?
There is an allocation that is given to departments like Department of Health, Department of Education, and Department of Roads and Infrastructure. In those, the rationale, it were the business plan that were submitted by the departments that got approved. And there are allocations given directly to municipalities on infrastructure projects that were submitted by municipalities, of which the implementing agents will be municipalities. We did not want to have a person who will be a stand in between because it will be difficult to get a direct accountability. Where money has to go to municipalities, it was directed to the account of the municipality.
So, Minister, what makes you believe, I mean, the part of your plan, the way I heard you talk about it, includes insisting on monthly and quarterly reports on these projects, bank statements, and the likes. Someone will say this is exactly what the Auditor General wants to see, regular, proper accounting for funds through reports filed properly and on time. What makes you believe you will succeed where the Auditor General seems to be struggling to get municipalities to comply?
Well, the Auditor General have limited means of holding municipalities accountable. COGTA has a larger leverage and working together with Treasury to effect accountability. And as I'm saying, we will be following these things on a monthly basis. And if a municipality doesn't submit on a monthly basis, that will be a red flag that something is not going well here, and we will sit on that municipality. There is no one who will ask money and be given money and refuse to account on the money given.
And then tell me about some of the problems that seem to be systemic. Infrastructure planning, procurement problems. So where municipalities will already have the money allocated, but the issue, is stuck at procurement, as well as, project planning and project management. How will you work in solutions into that? What kind of support are you providing for municipalities in relation to this ring-fenced funding?
COGTA has a wing called MISA, Municipal Infrastructure Support Agent. This structure has a pool of engineers and technicians, a wide range of people who are capable in executing capital projects under MIC. They will be deployed to municipalities who will indicate early that they have a challenge in terms of project management and also execution of projects. But a number of municipalities already have a pool of service providers. The procurement process is not going to be a big challenge. Where we see a period of 4 months, a municipality reporting that we haven't used the money, we will come closer. And there is MOU, which is a wing with sufficient finance officers, CFOs, and former municipal managers. We will come closer to municipalities who have a challenge on procurement to give them support so that they can execute the money timeously before it is recalled back.
All right. Minister Afgora, thank you for your time. We wish you all of the best with ensuring that there's that accountability and transparency in how these funds are used by the various entities and government departments as well as municipalities.
Thank you very much, Thulasizwe.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matriek mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bakkie to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
The Saints are pumped up to fight even harder in search of 3 points on home ground.
And Smallbone has scored his first Premier League goal. Liverpool stood like statues.
Meanwhile, the Villains are chasing a win to secure a decent top half spot.
Tielemans to Rashford. Rashford fires it in. Oh, it's gone in! It's turned over by Marco Asensio again. 2 from him, 2 for Aston Villa, and 3 points surely.
This is the Premier League. Experience a thrilling encounter between Southampton FC and Aston Villa FC on Saturday, 12 April at 3:30 p.m. live on S3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
22 minutes after 8, let me take 1 or 2 of your voice notes. Let me start with this one, responding to the conversation I just had with the Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister Velenkosi Nihlabisa.
Of government will be at the
good morning, Thulas. And now that Cocktail Minister is there, can you ask him to please check on the Sarah Bartman municipality, please, man? I see there's some irregularities going on there also. You must please check on Sarah Bartman municipality. I've been trying to speak to Dion De Vos, the mayor, with no luck. Thank you. Chief Civil Frans here from Kaberga.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. I do wish you had said a bit more when you talk about irregularities in the Sarah Bartman municipality and just expand a bit more. I do believe that the minister is still listening and will have heard what you are saying, that it's worth looking into. And I suppose perhaps the minister and the leadership in the government department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs may actually already have a sense of what it is that you are talking about. Let me take a call that is responding to, in fact, I'll come back to a call in a moment, but let me take a voice note that responds to the conversation we had earlier on with the public protector, Kolega Galega, in relation to the 3 investigations she conducted in the last quarter of the last financial year into President Cyril Ramaphosa.
Good morning, Thulas. I hope I've heard the public protector properly. So she says the president had a pre-arranged program on the day when the house was handed over. And then suddenly that morning, the premier of the Free State calls the president to say, "Hey, Mr. President, I've got a handing over of the house. Could you please pass over here to come and help me hand over this house?"
Yeah.
Is that how the president works?
Yeah.
Is that for real? I mean, the president blows your flies wherever the wind blows. Is that how it works? I mean, what kind of madness is this?
Yeah, I'm with you. That's precisely what also struck me. Just the last minute idea. It also struck me, I won't lie, when I read that the president had his own program and then last minute diverted to say, hey, by the way, there's a house that I'm handing over, please come along. And also even that whole idea of, he was told that the house was being donated by a private person, and only to find out when they get there that actually this is a government-built RDP house. And to just top it off, this was a house that was, the beneficiary to whom this house was then handed over was not meant to be the beneficiary, with the result that the public protector now is talking about that situation needing to be corrected. But I did pick up on what you are saying. Let me take a call from Philip in Cape Town. Good morning to you, Philip. You want to respond to my conversation with Minister Velenkosi Nihlabisa?
I just wanted to make a comment. I'm sorry, I caught your conversation towards the tail end of your discussion with me.
Sure.
I think the thought that I have in my mind is all the municipalities are employing quite competent people to actually do the work that needs to be done in the municipality. My concern is now you need another body to come in, help them to implement projects in those areas. And I just feel maybe an opportunity perhaps presents itself to go to those municipalities and actually empower them instead of oversee the process before they even apply for any budgetary activities or implementation. So just to say, listen, you need to know how to spend the money instead of coming back to say, now let's see how you can use the money before the treasury perhaps pulls the money back.
Yeah.
I think that's all.
Yeah. No, I hear you, Philip. Unfortunately, we don't have the greatest of lines to you. It sounds like you're driving, but I caught the point that you are making. The cost of not having that capacity built in at municipal level is what you then end up with, needing to then have an extra layer of support to municipalities when they have to undertake this kind of spending. That's Philip in Cape Town. Let me go to Koti in Polokwane. Good morning to you, Koti. You want to talk to me about President Ramaphosa and what he's had to say about South Africa's sovereignty?
Yes, good morning to us and the listeners. Yeah, I heard even on the streets, everybody speaking of America, Trump and South Africa is a sovereign country, it's a sovereign state and all that.
Yeah.
I just want somebody should clarify to me what makes South Africa to be sovereign. Why this question is because of is South Africa emancipated from the Roman Dutch law? Because it was governed by the Roman Dutch law. How are we sovereign? Are we sovereign?
Sure.
Let somebody just explain this.
I hear you, good. But let's say, so sovereignty, isn't it about the fact that we don't pledge allegiance to a monarchy elsewhere? We are not colonized. The Roman Dutch law that you're talking about it was our own decision to say it forms part of our common law. So we have the agency as a country. If we wanted, we could repeal those elements of Roman Dutch law, but we decided it serves us just fine in certain areas of law and not in all areas of law. So are you saying us taking that decision erodes from our sovereignty that we claim?
Exactly, Truls. Exactly. Let us just get out of the Roman Dutch law altogether. Because now, if we are saying we are sovereign, but I'm still using the language of the Dutch law in our law, we are not sovereign. We have not been emancipated. We are still governed by the law of the sea.
Gotcha.
The law of the sea versus the law of the land.
Gotcha.
Let's look into that area. We are not sovereign.
Totally
we are not. Because there's somewhere, if you could look, just that we don't have time, I could read it for you, that South Africa is registered as a company in New York and London.
Wow.
Yes, under the United Nations.
All right, Koti, I've got to go. But thank you for that. You've gotten me thinking. It's a fascinating and intriguing debate that Koti is opening up there in Polokwane.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning to you once again, Zai. So Mangoba Mngeti has been talking a bit about Royal AM and their imminent exit.
Yeah. This is a big issue because this future of the club is so shaky at the moment, and it's a club that KwaZulu-Natal just cannot afford to lose. But nevertheless, yes, let's hear from the Golden Arrows coach, Mangoba Mngeti.
I think it's just unfortunate, and I don't think we have control in that. And sometimes on things that I don't have control on, I just accept fate, because the reality is it was always nice to have so many teams in the province, and it could have been even nicer with Durban City coming into the PSL when we still have so many teams, because that's the only possibility and a better chance for KZN teams to even win the championship one day.
Let's go to cricket. The Titans and Boland officially called it a draw shortly after tea on day 4 of the Cricket South Africa 4-day series match at Supersport Park in Centurion yesterday. The result, coupled with the Dolphins' loss to the Warriors in their clash in Gqeberha, ensured that the Titans held on to the second spot on the competition log. This means they will take on the high-felt rivals, the Lions, in the final that starts on Thursday. In another match, Sanurin Muthusamy delivered an outstanding performance with both bat and ball, helping the Warriors secure a 37-run victory over the Dolphins at St. George's Park. Rugby, the Sharks surrendered their EPCR Challenge Cup title with a 34-21 defeat at the hands of the French side Lyon. The result was set before the kickoff, with the Sharks choosing to send a virtual B-side to the clash. And finally, Formula One Red Bull driver Max Verstappen claimed his first victory of the F1 2025 season at the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka. Verstappen converted a stunning pole position into a win, with McLaren drivers Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri finishing second and third respectively.
It was a fun race. I mean, the whole race I saw 2 orange cars in my mirror, and yeah, especially those last 20 laps, we were pushing quite hard out there, and you could just feel, the tires were degrading more and more, but, you had to keep on, fighting it, basically being on the limit. But, yeah, it was better than expected, to be honest. My race pace, I do think that probably the cooler track temp helped us out a bit, less tire, overheating.
Check back for more high-octane sport with John Hediker around 12:30 for SAFM. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musan. The headlines: former Public Protector and Thulasizwe Party MP Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane says the Legal Practice Council has not formally notified her of its intention to apply for her disbarment. Public Works and Infrastructure Minister Dean McPherson says he will continue in his portfolio until he's told he is no longer needed. His statement comes amid speculation of a split in the Government of National Unity over the VAT tax hike. And reactions are continuing to the recent acquittal of Nigerian televangelist Timothy Omutoso, with some South Africans expressing concerns on the country's justice system. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Heavy traffic on Pretoria's N1 South. There's been a crash between Rigel and the R21. Now, it has been moved across to the emergency lane, but the traffic will still have something to look at and will still be slow for some time. It's pretty heavily backed from Atterbury Road down to about the Solomon Mshlagu Bridge over the N1 highway, which is south of Rigel. N1 South, Ravonia down to the Winnie Mandela off-ramp, very heavy. Lights are off as you come off the highway and turn down to Winnie Mandela and Sloane. The stationary truck at Cliffdale has finally been cleared, so we're in a sort of backlog clearing mode going from Key Ridge up towards Cliffdale, but it is looking like it is improving pretty rapidly. The N2 going north stays heavy this morning. Stationary vehicle around Spaghetti Junction, so coming through from the M7 Bluff exit on your way up towards Umgera Road, absolutely jam-packed. Cape Town easing up pretty nicely, although it is noticeably busier this morning. The N1 from sort of N1 City Paro side through to the elevated freeway is quite busy. The N2's got some traffic between Jan Smuts Avenue or Jan Smuts Drive and Hospital Bend, and because of the extra traffic around today, the queue is just extending on that N7 South. The roadworks are still there, right in the heart of Goodwood, just past Trekker Road, so N7 all backed up from Milton. It'll probably stay busy across the day and get fairly heavy again in the peak afternoon run through. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Outsurance has another random fact for you. In 1996, a cold drink and pie cost 5 Rand. Now it's about 44 Rand. Times have changed, but Outsurance is still committed to giving you big savings on your car insurance. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Let's hear from 47-year-old Babita, who switched to Outsurance and saves an unbelievable 599 Rand a month on her 2023 BMW X1.
Gave Outsurance a call. Everything was done really quickly, really efficiently, and that smile is not going anywhere.
SMS out to 30754. If Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash and make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. SMS out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning once again to Ndauling Lechela. So Ndauling, tell me about government, right? Responding to these tariffs imposed by the Trump administration. As I was saying earlier on, it seems as if each and every government against whom tariffs have been levied has their own particular strategy and way forward on how they are going to respond. What's our government's strategy?
That's right, Thulas, and really it is a wait-and-see game with governments around the world considering how best to respond to, the turmoil on that has been unleashed on the global economy by U.S. President. And it seems like our government is taking a more measured approach, a more cautious approach. That's as Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, Pak Stau, cautioned against imposing reciprocal tariffs on the U.S. without engagement. This comes after Trump, of course, imposed a 30% tariff on South African goods, citing an average 62% tariff on U.S. imports, which Dow disputes, stating the actual average tariff is 7.6%. Now, the calculation, or the U.S. calculation, appears to be based on trade deficits rather than duties on U.S. imports, and the duties may nullify benefits of AGOA affecting local exports to the U.S. Now, the government is concerned about the impact on key sectors like the auto industry, agri-industry and manufacturing, with potential job losses and economic implications. To address this, South Africa also intends to negotiate with the U.S. to maintain market access and secure favorable agreements for its exports. The government says it will also intensify efforts to diversify export destinations, targeting markets in Africa, Asia, Europe and the Middle East.
Yeah, and Dowling, in fact, sorry to put you on the spot, but if you have it at hand, just explain that point about that 60% that the U.S. was under the impression is the actual tariff on average that we charge, that South Africa charges on goods imported from the United States. I saw it somewhere and it sounded a bit ridiculous that the maths just didn't math at all. If you have it at hand, it would be great.
But okay, just a quick explanation. They did not calculate it how it's usually calculated. So instead of using the preferred measure, he somehow minused trade deficits or divided them. So I don't have the exact method,
all good.
But it was, according to analysts, that's not how you particularly calculate tariffs.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people having fun with it to say Trump's math just doesn't math.
It wasn't methy
at all. Tell me about the Purple Group and their forecasts about a surge in earnings.
So they're expecting an increase in earnings for the 6 months ending February, driven by the success of its Easy Equities investment platform. Now, the company says earnings are likely to more than triple. The Easy Group portfolio, which includes Easy Equities, Easy Properties, and Easy Asset Management, has been the main driver of the company's strong performance. In the previous half-year period, revenue increased by 34.9%, and the company generated a profit after tax of 11.8 million rands compared to a prior loss of 16.5 million rands. Now, Easy Equity is really a platform that has somewhat disrupted the local investment landscape by making retail investments more accessible. The platform allows users to invest in local and international markets. And I can imagine how flooded the platform has been over the past week, with some users checking how much they've lost. Others maybe looking to buy the dip, And from the recent financials, the group confirmed confirmed that it has over 1.2 million customers. So more details on those numbers will be released when its results are out on Wednesday.
Yeah, lastly, Dowling, I do imagine that Trump tariffs continues to be the dominant theme across the board. Give us a sense then of what kind of a Monday we can expect in the markets.
And that's exactly what will be influencing markets action today. Our markets likely to start the day in the red following global peers. A quiet day on the company news front, of course, as all eyes are on tariff retaliatory measures, as investors also eye those trade war risks. And those trade concerns weighing on the local unit this morning is currently trading above the 19 Rand mark to the dollar. Over in the US, futures in negative territory, signaling that we could be in for another day of red screens globally, and that already playing out in Asia with stocks taking a knock this morning. The Hong Kong Hang Seng leading the losses on that front, that index down over 12%.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntauling Lechela. She's kept you updated on business, economics, and the markets over the last 3 hours here on The Morning Brief.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
20 minutes to 9. Let's shift our attention to this story out of the Eastern Cape now. The ongoing water crisis in Buffalo City has reached a tipping point, exacerbating the already dire situation faced by its residents. Not only is this crisis denying citizens their fundamental right to clean water, but it is also crippling governance within the Eastern Cape, where the heart of the provincial administration has sort of come to a standstill because of these water challenges. Let's welcome Yomelela Kyali, who is MMC, member of the Mayoral Committee for Infrastructure at the Buffalo City Municipality. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time this morning. What is at the heart of these water challenges? We started hearing about it here on the show a few days ago when one of our listeners was calling and just complaining about it. But it seems this has been going on for at least a month. What's going on? Mr. Kyali, can you hear me? Yomelela Kyali, can you hear me? All right, we do seem to have a bit of a challenge with that connection to Yomelela Kyali because, we can't hear anything from that line. Let's see if we can get him on a better line. We are seeking an explanation as to this water crisis that the Buffalo City Municipality has been facing. We are told that it has brought operations at various institutions in the city, including the provincial legislature in Bisho, to a standstill. Let me see if we have Yomelela Kyali back on a better line yet. No, the team telling me that we don't have him yet. So let's take a quick break and see if we can get a better connection to him.
April is Freedom Month, a month to reflect, celebrate, and move forward. SAFM is bringing you powerful stories, insightful debates, and voices that shape our nation. Stay tuned to SAFM, where freedom, history, and the future meet. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Big stories of the day. #The Morning Brief.
All right, I do believe we have Yomelela Kyali on a better line to talk about the Buffalo City water crisis. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. I was asking the question about what's taking so long. What is at the heart of the water crisis in the city? We are told it's been ongoing for at least a month and it has brought on quite significant disruptions to operations, particularly in the CBD.
Good morning, Thulasizwe Simelane, and good morning to the viewers at home. Thulasizwe and the viewers, the challenges that we've been having as Buffalo City Metro, of course, as you have correctly placed them, that there are ongoing challenges of water in the city. Firstly, we must appreciate the fact that, Thulasizwe, that Buffalo City is a metro, but a metro of a special type. And the reason that I'm stating this character is that Buffalo City is a fairly rural metro with an appreciation of, by far and large, rural areas. And with that being said, we get our bulk water supply from Amatola Water Board. Amatola Water Board has got a couple of water schemes that are fitting within Buffalo City. You have the Lay Dam, which speaks to the King Williamstown areas,
sure.
The Bishop area. You have the Sandile scheme, which equally speaks to those vast areas of King Williamstown, which are very rural in character. You equally have the Pedi water scheme, which speaks to your Cholomga areas, the coastal belt areas, which will include some of the Kwelecha. You have the central one, which is the Nahoon water dam. And I think today you are interviewing me around it. In reasons to that, I heard in your preamble speaking to the CBDs and the township areas.
Sure.
This Simelane, it feeds to 60% of Mdantsane, while the remaining 40% Buffalo City Reservoir.
Sure.
Now, there has been an ongoing Amatola strike, and it has been going now, I think it's for the third week. And these disruptions has been continuously happening, putting a strain on our water reservoirs and treatment plants that give and disperse water to our communities. It is for those results. But I'm not neglecting the challenges that we've been facing as the city, such as aging infrastructure, vandalism, the ongoing urbanization, and the influx of people that are coming across the city.
I appreciate what you're saying, and I appreciate the balance that you're trying to put between factors that have to do with the ongoing strike and factors that objectively have to do with the challenges that you face as far as infrastructure is concerned. But just on the strike itself, how exactly is the strike affecting, how is the strike at the Amatola Water Board cascading to, you know, your ability to provide water? Just explain the mechanics of how that works.
As I've alluded before to yourself and the viewers, is that we get by far and large the bulk of our water from the Amatola Water Board. As a result to that, and the disruptions of Amatola by implication subsequently are a result of those cuttages that are happening in Bisho, and by far and large the Mdantsane area, which is the second biggest township.
Sure. So water disruptions happen in many municipalities and metros, but part of your problem, though, is that you don't even have the capacity to provide water tankers, right? What with the number of water tankers that you have that are not functioning. Now, that talks specifically to your own weaknesses as a municipality.
Look, Mr. Simelane, that is correct as well. It is not a far-fetched misplacement of facts. In the last council, hence I said we must equally have an appreciation of the evolution of Buffalo City as a city. In the last council, because we've been having vandalism in the context of the waste, the water treatment plants, the bulk lines, which have been illegally connected, but as well as our fleet challenges that we have. And which impacts on what you're speaking to, our water tankers.
Because the figure that I'm looking at says you only have 4 out of 18 water tankers that are operational. And while that is ongoing, you are spending quite a lot of money on private suppliers of water tankers. You will forgive someone listening to this conversation saying, oh, here we go again. They're not provisioning 4 municipal water tankers because there's a tender down the line.
No, Mr. Simelane, as I was saying that the vandalism by far and large equally impacts on service delivery. Remember, in the city time, we've been faced with high activities of criminalities which impact on the city. We, in the last council, adopted a security risk analysis, which would assist the city. Part of what would the risk analysis assist us with is what you're speaking to, the high vandalism of our water tankers and the challenges that we're facing in relation to our fleet management. Secondary to that is that we have made deliberately resolved in council that we must find a fleet solution as a result of these glaring issues that you're speaking to.
So what's the message this morning? So what's the message this morning for people in various communities? Mr. Kyali, I'm almost out of time. Out of time. So just very quickly, what's the message to someone listening who lives in Buffalo City Municipality? Is the message that, one, the problems are largely to do with the strike and therefore out of your hands? 2, your fleet, you're still talking about plans, but actually as far as the water tanker fleet goes, you don't have sufficient tankers to deploy at this particular point. So what do you say to them about their water situation today?
No, Buffalo City is a city that prides itself as a city hard of work. We're on the ground dealing with the community's issues, particularly that relates to water. We're going to deliver water because we're having discussions with Amatola Water in relation to their strike. We had a meeting with the Premier, the Honorable Minister, the Deputy Minister, the MEC of Kokta in trying to resolve that. In relation to the water tankers as an alternative supply, we'll continue to supply and deliver water to our community so that the basic right is met and people get water. In relation to the water tankers and the fleet solution, it is underway already. There are investigations so as to put plans in place and tools that we can respond to that.
All right, I've got to leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. That's Yomelela Kyali, who is the member of the mayoral committee responsible for infrastructure in the Buffalo City municipality.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
N1 South leaving Pretoria. Earlier crash just after Rigel. It's off on the side of the road. All lanes are open. So it is a situation where a backlog is moving and starting to move off better than it was before, obviously, while the crash was blocking lanes. The N1 South to off-ramp at Winnie Mandela is heavy. No lights on Winnie Mandela and Sloane. So as you come off a highway, ramping onto Winnie Mandela for a turn down to Bryanston, it's all pretty heavy. Broken down truck on the N14 towards Pretoria between Lanseria and Diepsloot. And that is forcing you into a single lane and causing quite a heavy backlog. And no traffic lights on on Bowling Avenue and Kelvin Drive. So coming south out of that Woodmead area on Bowling, very slow. And it's just been a crash on Winnie Mandela and Republic, slowing both of those routes towards Santon. Durban, the N2 starting to move through Spaghetti Junction a little bit better than it was earlier. Stationary vehicle was the last obstruction, but it looks like it's probably cleared. Cliffdale, slow but moving. The truck that was broken down earlier has been cleared away. Cape Town, fairly slow on the N1 inbound this morning from sort of Kiel, Basson, N1 city territory, all the way to the elevated freeway. The N2's got a bit of traffic between Bunga and Hospital Bend, and the N7 South roadworks slowing traffic as you go down to Goodwood Road. The queue back at Milton Road. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
WAFCON preparations continue as African champions Banyana Banyana meet again with the Scorchers in a thrilling pitch battle. This is the international friendly. Experience the beauty of African women's football. South Africa versus Malawi. This Tuesday, 8 April at 2:30 p.m. Live streaming on SABC Plus, SABC2, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, and at 3 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
You've heard our story this morning. Let's hear yours and your reactions to some of what we've told you this morning. Let me take one or two of your voice notes and then turn to the calls. Starting with this one that has to do, someone wants to comment on President Cyril Ramaphosa this morning.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. You know what? The people just want only to find Ramaphosa guilty of something. Now they cannot find him because he is not even having any crime to be answerable to. He's a clean person. Jacob from Jamestown.
Sure, that's an interesting take there, Jacob. Thank you for that. That's a very interesting take. It's in the context, of course, I'm joking. So it's in the context of what the public protector had to find, what the public protector found in relation to these three investigations around President Cyril Ramaphosa, finding that there was no violation of the Executive Members Ethics Act, as well as any other forms of misconduct, specifically in those three matters that were investigated. Let me take this one that has to do with what the Business Unity South Africa has had to say about the importance of keeping the current configuration of the Government of National Unity.
Good morning, Dr. Thulas. On SAFM, we don't beat around the bush. The Business SA people, they were told the truth to get off the president's back. The president, when he came into office, they were behind him, jumping around, saying, yes, this is a billionaire, he's a businessman, he understands business, how it works.
Yeah.
He's a person of the workers, he was standing for the workers. Now, look where we are now.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting take. Let me also add this one very quickly before I go to the calls.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. You know, this whole thing with the GNU and the ANC wanting people to vote their way and everything like that. I'm just wondering whether the ANC wants every other political party that's part of the GNU to be a yes sir, no sir party. Because the reason why people join in GNU is so that you can influence and add more things from a different perspective and get the best result out. Not to be a yes sir, no sir.
Yeah,
Mark from Cape Town.
Yeah, I can't help but agree with that. We are better off for the rigor, intellectual rigor, as well as the policy rigor being infused into any government, really, for that matter, be it a single party government or a coalition involving multiple parties, such that by the time policies leave the gates of cabinet, for example, they've been tried and tested and stress tested within those debates in cabinet. Let me go to Solomon in KwaZulu-Natal. Solomon, you want to continue along the same vein, talking about the Government of National Unity. Good morning.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Really, you see the DA has continued to represent what they really stand for, which is contrary to transformation. It's just a white lager focused on protecting the privileges of the few. I think they can have these differences from the policy direction point of view, but at some point they are in one cabinet and leading one country. They cannot continue to debate and disagree openly in perpetuity. At some point, they must agree whether it is 0.5% VAT increase. I think a compromise from 2% to 0.5%. DA should have been accommodative of that fact that it is within and operates within the GNU.
But how do you sustain your argument that they continue to represent what you call a white lager and what they stand for when they are saying that actually what they are championing is no VAT increase, which would benefit people across the spectrum, black or white?
All these parties there from a particular point of view ideologically. but there is a midway if we are to take the country forward. I think the ANC and other parties, DA included, they have to converge, move towards each other, extend their arms to each other so that they can be a common ground. You can't have a partner serving in the cabinet, but each and every time they react to the proposal is just ANC, not cabinet counterpart or partner.
All right, I've got to move on. Thank you for that, Solomon in KwaZulu-Natal. And lastly, Samson in Mahikeng. Good morning. You want to talk to me about AfriForum this morning? Samson?
You hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, the law cannot change its vote. The Donald Trump in America, people are not welcoming him. And the AfriForum, also in the Donald Trump, they benefit from the oppressed African state. If the man is a rich merchant and he's there in America, he cannot tell us what to do in South Africa. You used to stay in the darkness. You know, AfriForum, the leaders of AfriForum, they are rosing now the past. You know, I couldn't even wear the white shirt. It was not allowed. He must understand in Pretoria, there's a church street. If you in that street, you should be arrested. You know, the reconciliations, I can Afrikaans praat saam met hy man.
Yeah.
Hy vergeet dat ons 'n swaar getrek en ons ontvaar waarvan ons kom.
All right. Samson, I've got to leave it there. I would have loved to engage you a bit more, but I'm completely out of time. Time for news now with N. Musa. And after that, the talking point is up next here on SAFM. Thank you for spending time with us this morning, for listening, as well as your engagement.
In our top stories, Advocate Mkhwebane reacts to legal counsel's decision and Minister McPherson stresses critical importance of the GNU. Good morning. Former Public Protector and Thulasizwe Party MP Advocate Thulasizwe Simelane says the Legal Practice Council has not formally notified her of its intention to apply for her disbarment. Parliament impeached her after finding her guilty of misconduct and incompetence. Mkhwebane was removed as Public Protector in 2023 following a Section 194 inquiry into her fitness to hold office. She says a media house sent her a statement from the LPC after she found out about the council's decision on social media platform X.
They have not yet written to me, and that's why I'm saying it's very strange, and I wonder why are they pursuing something like this when they should have written to me, they should have received my side of the story. We have the Promotion of Administrative and Justice Act, where after taking that decision, they should have written to me and told me we met, we deliberated on this, or we received a complaint from this particular person about the following. Can you respond to these allegations?
Public Works and Infrastructure Minister Dean McPherson says he will continue in his portfolio until he's told he is no longer needed. His statement comes amid speculation of a split in the Government of National Unity. This after the DA rejected the 2025 national budget and launched a legal challenge against it. McPherson says the GNU is important to the country and the DA has a role to play in it. He was speaking at a press conference in Cape Town yesterday.
I have a full week ahead. I'll continue to serve South Africans to the best of my ability. I think that the GNU is worth fighting for. I think South Africa is worth fighting for. And the GNU provides our country with the best possible chance to get through these very choppy waters at the moment.
Reactions are continuing to the recent acquittal of Nigerian televangelist Timothy Omutoso, with some South Africans expressing concerns on the country's justice system. The High Court in Gqeberha, the Eastern Cape, cleared Omutoso, Zukiswa Situ and Lusanda Sulani of all charges including rape, human trafficking and racketeering. Judge Irma Skuman said the state had failed to present a strong case. Some people have described the ruling as a travesty of justice.
I don't think it's a good thing that he was found not guilty because of his track record, and so many people have come forth with so much evidence.
I feel like the people who have power, who have money, always get away with a lot.
There were witnesses, there were people who experienced it, people who had that trauma. The case was just shut. Now he's being sent back to Nigeria as a free man.
The justice system is failing us as women, and now we do not feel safe, going around.
I think our justice system is corrupt.
I think we must understand how the law works. It's about certain principles that without which a person would be vindicated. If something is not proven, it's not proven.
Police are investigating an incident in which 2 people, including a 7-year-old, were killed in a fire at a house in Esterrivier, Cape Town. They say they are investigating a double murder and arson case. Police spokesperson FC van Wyk.
According to reports, police members on duty attended to a complaint of a house on fire at the mentioned address. On their arrival, they found the fire brigade already busy extinguishing the fire. When the fire was extinguished, the bodies of a 7-year-old boy and an unidentified person were found inside the house. Investigation continues. No arrest has been made as yet.
And finally, the U.S. Health Secretary Robert Kennedy says the most effective way to prevent the spread of measles is the